I just bought this 2015 Audi TTS at auction, sight unseen, for $2,300. And after taking delivery of this thing, I would really like to have a word with my past self. I just finished this 2021 Toyota GR Supra, and I told myself I would never buy a car wrecked that bad ever again. So then you may be asking yourself, why in the world did you buy an Audi TTS that was in a rollover? I don't know. Maybe I just like the paint at this point. I mean, look at this thing. The bumper is broken, the hood is crumpled, the fenders are useless, the A-pillars are bent, both doors are ruined, along with the wheels, the quarter panels, and even the rear splitter is barely hanging on. But even though the top was down, the interior looks pretty good. And more importantly, this thing only has 34,000 miles. That means we should have a pretty healthy drivetrain in this thing. So if you look past the body damage and the wheels and the suspension damage over here, I think we have a pretty good car on our hands. So let's prove that. The most important thing to me is verifying that the heart of this car is good. If the engine doesn't run or the transmission doesn't shift, I just wasted a lot of money. Now it's going to be much easier to work on this car, work on the engine with just all of this broken stuff out of the way. So I vote we take off our hood, the fenders, the bumper, just so there isn't a bunch of stuff hanging in the way. And now that we have all of that out of the way, we get a closer look at whether I made a bad deal or not. At first glance, I don't see anything too scary. Our engine's a little sloped, so I'm guessing we have a broken engine mount. Oil cap's broken, oil dipstick's broken, this PCV breather hose is broken. I don't see, like, the valve cover's not cracked. I don't see a cracked head. The intake manifold itself looks fine. Now again, it was a rollover, not like a huge front impact. It looks like it obviously got hit pretty bad right here. This, not supposed to be that bent. It's supposed to be more straighter, more like this. Some other things I noticed is we have coolant, and I don't see a cap to check if the radiator has coolant, but our overflow does. Are we gonna be so lucky to still have oil in a car that was upside down? I doubt it. And the answer is no, bone dry, zero oil. I can also see that we still have brake fluid all the way even above the max fill line. So far from what I can see up top, I think we got a good chance of the engine being good. However, seeing underneath might change my opinion. Let's get it on the lift. I actually want to do one more thing before I get the car any higher on the lift. I'm not actually all the way forward where I should be on this jack pad here next to this bent up broken rim, and that's because the rim is in the way. So I'm actually going to cut the tire off and take this rim off. Now seems like a fantastic time to catch you guys up to speed with all of the damage that I've found so far. Once we removed this very broken rim and tire, we get to see this mangled mess of a corner. The strut is bent and broken. Same thing with the sway bar, the lower control arm. Oh, and if you notice, the axle is half there and half there. Our caliper, also broken. I'm going to go ahead and assume that we need a new wheel bearing or a whole new hub, just because of how bad the impact was here. There's a random piece of plastic here. I don't know what that's for, but it seems to be good. And if you look really close, that crack is our subframe. And here is our very broken engine mount. It's not supposed to be, you know, unattached. And I was assuming that all of our oil drained out because it was a rollover and it was upside down. But unfortunately, with that broken engine mount, we can see that our oil pan is resting on our subframe, and right where that oil pan is resting on the subframe is a giant hole or a crack as well. So broken frame, broken suspension, broken brakes, broken axle, broken oil pan, broken timing cover, broken engine mount. And that's just what we found so far. I was hoping that when we checked out underneath, it would confirm that I could just put oil in it, see if we had power, start the thing up. However, there's a hole in the oil pan, so I can't add oil. And there's also a hole in our timing cover, and I want to make sure that there's nothing in the timing chain so we don't skip a tooth and bend a valve. So it seems like there's a little more work cut out for us than I thought. We need to change the oil pan, we need to change that timing cover, make sure that there's nothing in the timing chain, and we need to fix that broken engine mount. Currently, there's no room underneath the car because the oil pan is resting on the subframe, so I can't really change the oil pan until we fix the engine mount. I can't replace the engine mount until I replace that timing cover, so it seems like the timing cover is what is next. So to get started on the timing cover, I'm going to go ahead and just make more room to work. That is one lesson I've learned working on cars. If there's something in the way and it's super easy to remove it. Don't try to work around it. So I'm going to get these hoses out of the way. I'm going to get the engine mount out of the way, and hopefully we have a better look at what's going on. Well, this car is full of surprises, mostly because I'm very new to Audi. This is the first Audi I've ever owned. I don't know much about them. Good news, bad news, and just normal news in general. Let's start with that. I thought this had an EA888 engine. That engine has a timing chain. This engine has a timing belt. This engine is apparently not an EA888, it's an EA113. That might change things in the future. You'll understand more later. It is still dual overhead cam. This kind of threw me for a loop too. We have the exhaust cam that's driven off of a belt, and then we got a timing chain on the other side that connects the two camshafts together. So just learning a lot about the car that I bought. The good news, the timing cover doesn't actually have a hole in it. Well, it does have a hole in it, but it's supposed to be there. It's that little hole right there. That's where the engine mount goes through and bolts to the block. Time for the bad news. The bad news, the engine mount was completely shattered, 3 different pieces. We knew that. What we didn't know, and what I just learned, the corner of the bolt holes or the tabs or the ears for the back of the engine block, for the back of the engine mount, those broke off. That's the bad news. Technically, the OEM fix would be a new block. I'm not gonna do that. Another option, I believe, would be to weld, but it's cast. I don't know if you can weld cast. I can't weld cast. I've never welded cast. The third option, and what we're gonna do, and I think you guys are gonna give me a little bit of flack for it, is there's enough meat for the bolt to still like thread in and be in the correct position, and then I'm gonna put a nut and a washer on the back to clamp it to the existing remaining tab that's left. Again, I'm probably gonna get a lot of crap for that, but it's what we're gonna do. Now again, for like the second or third time, I'm gonna change the plan again. Originally, I was just gonna put the timing cover back on, put the engine mount back on, and then we can start replacing the oil pan. I actually, while we have the timing cover off, would like to spin the engine over by hand and double check that our timing is good. So let's quick take off our coil packs, take out our spark plugs, and then let's use a boroscope to check out our cylinders, make sure there's no unexpected surprises in there. Taking a look in cylinder, I imagine number 1 here. It's all the way on the left. Okay, so far looking good. Cylinder wall looks really good. Amazing cross hatching. Nothing that I'm worried about so far there. There's our valves, they're shut. Happy with cylinder 1. Out and into cylinder 2. Again, piston looks good. Cylinder wall, normal. Looks like intake valve slightly open. Don't see any nicks on them. Got some oil in there though. And then same thing, exhaust valves looking good. Cylinder 2 checks out. Going into cylinder 3. Cylinder 3 piston looking good. Cylinder walls looking good. All the valves. Let's just make sure cylinder 4 is following suit. Piston, sure, fine. Little dirty in there, nothing crazy. Cylinder wall checks out. And then we got our intake valves looking clean. And same thing with exhaust valves. Well, let's see if I can spin this thing over by hand. Oh, really? Let me put a super long extension down cylinder 1 there. I can hear us rubbing on plastic somewhere. Don't know what yet. Well, there's a timing mark, and it looks like we're at top dead center. So at least our cam is in time. So cylinders look really good. I mean, 35,000 miles, they better look really good. Happy with how the engine's turning over by hand. Super smooth. We have no spark plugs in, so 0 compression. It just spins over. But, very good. Still concerned about the rubber plastic rubbing noise I'm hearing. If I turn the engine on and ignore this noise, and it turns out that we're rubbing the timing belt on some plastic, and I cut the timing belt, engine go boom, not happy. But I think it's best, if we're safe, and just investigate a little bit further. So I just need to tension the serpentine belt tensioner, take off the serpentine belt, unbolt the harmonic balancer, so we can take off that lower timing cover and just take a little bit of a closer look. Okay, finally, some good news. So the grinding noise goes away when I took off the harmonic balancer. Turns out there was just some debris in between that and the timing cover. So with our timing still good, our cylinder walls looking fantastic, no noise when I turn the engine over, I think we can finally start reversing all of the stuff that we've taken apart, start making some progress again. So let's put our harmonic balancer back on and torque that to 18 foot-pounds, followed by our accessory belt. And then I think it would be really good to get this big, bulky engine mount back in place while the timing cover is off, while I have the most room down there. Seems like I'm gonna have to take the belt back off, the harmonic balancer back off, and then the lower timing cover just to get the engine mount back on. So I think we gotta disassemble even further to put the engine mount back on, and then together with the rest. That took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take. Honestly, most of the time was me taking the bolt in and out of the engine mount and cutting it a little bit shorter each time until I had the perfect length to have it all the way through, the nut on the back, and not run into anything else. So we basically have the bottom half of the engine assembled or reassembled from what we had. So we had the lower timing cover on, the harmonic balancer, the tensioner, the accessory belt, and of course, all of that we had to take off to put the engine mount on, and that is very firmly in place as well. Quick little interruption. I'm really sick of having all my tools unorganized and on the floor and having to bend over all the time to pick them up. So I bought a little cart so I can put my tools on it, put my parts on it, carry them around with me. So we're just gonna quick unbox and put this cart together. All right, look at that. That is going to save a lot of time, believe it or not. Instead of bending over constantly to pick up tools or being unorganized and keeping them on the cowl of the car, I got all my parts or all my tools right next to me, nice and organized. And now we can finally carry on to reassembling the top half of our engine. That being the top timing cover, coil packs, spark plugs, hoses, the coolant overflow, and the engine mount. My God, it's starting to come together. The progress is starting to feel really good. First thing I want to mention, having a cart, probably one of the best purchases I've made besides having the lift. And that's being honest. I would definitely purchase a cart. Having all your tools right next to you, not having to bend over to pick them up. Can't believe I've been living life like that for years, like 10 years. So everything we just did to the top half of this engine was because we had a broken mount, which if you look, the jack is no longer holding it up. The engine is being supported solely by the weight of the mounts. And while we were so deep in there doing the engine mount, we verified so many things. We verified that the cylinders look good. We verified that the timing belt looks good. We verified that the engine rotates over nicely by hand, and we verified that the engine is still in time. If we didn't have a giant hole in our oil pan, I would say we're ready to start seeing if this thing will run. Unfortunately, we do have a hole, meaning we have no oil. So it's finally time to get this car back in the air and take off our old oil pan. I suppose while we're down here, we'll also do an oil change, you know, based on how there's no oil in it. So we should remove the filter. Now, believe it or not, 36mm socket for this oil filter housing. I don't have that size. Adjustable crescent wrench hopefully gets the job done. Nope. No, it does not. I do, however, have an 1.5" size socket, which is too big, but it's all I got. So hopefully don't break it. All right, I loosened it, didn't break it, we're good to go. Oil filter itself looks really good. Zero debris in any of the pleats. It's a good sign. So out with the old and in with the new. And then they're nice enough to write the torque spec right on the oil filter, which is 25 Newton meters. I'm gonna do 20 foot-pounds. And now we really don't plan on there being much oil in here, but we got to take it off anyway. I had that on there. None. No, no oil in there, which, you know, there's a hole at the bottom, so I expected. So it looks like we got a couple things that bolt or plug into the oil pan that we have to remove before we take it off, which we have the oil level sensor, we have the oil drain for the turbo, the charge piping bolts to the oil pan, and the charge piping bolts to the oil pan over here as well. So it looks like we removed the oil drain, 2 charge piping mounts, and the oil level sensor plug-in, and we should be able to drop this. Well, this is not the way I wanted to end the night, but I had to order 2 different socket sets off Amazon. They'll be here tomorrow. I already have triple square socket sets, but I need a really long skinny one to take this oil drain off because the drain is a metal pipe that curves right in front of the bolt, so a socket doesn't fit. A+ design. And then there's 2 bolts on the back of the oil pan next to the transmission. I think what I need is a long ball head hex socket because I can't fit a socket in there either. So A+ Audi for making me buy 2 socket sets just to take off an oil pan. I might as well order a 36mm socket as well so I can take off the oil filter. So that would be 3 different tools that I have to buy just for this oil change and oil pan. And rant. Thanks for listening. So I'll be back when I have the right tools for the job. Thank you, Amazon, for 1-day delivery, saving my butt again. I don't know where I would find long triple square socket set like this local to me. So thankfully, Amazon has 1-day delivery where I live. But maybe I'm speaking too soon. Let's see if this is actually going to solve our problem and get this oil pan off. Well, this is the next thing that I was worried about. The oil pan runs into the subframe when I'm trying to take it off. I was hoping I could snake it out the side. I cannot. I should correct myself. It's not hitting the subframe. I don't want to call it. It's hitting the subframe. It's some metal bracketry that bolts to the subframe. I believe the only thing that it's holding up is the radiator. So I'm going to use a hoist jack to hold up the radiator, unbolt this bracket, and then I think our oil pan will come off. There we have it. Oil pan is off. It looks pretty good in there. I can't really see too much, right? I can't see any bearing material. I can't see the crankshaft or anything. But 35,000 miles, and I definitely believe it. The engine's clean. Everything just wiped off. I did wipe it off before I took these shots, but there was nothing in the pickup. I didn't see any glittery mess. Happy with that. The oil pan does have some debris in it, but let's take a clean towel, wipe it up, and see if it's glittery or if it's just mess from me taking it off. All right, starting with a pretty clean towel here. Let's see how it looks. All of the bumps that I saw are defects in the oil pan. I thought it was gonna be debris, but it's just the oil pan. Yeah, there's 0 glitter on this at all. Listen to how rough this oil pan sounds with my hand. I thought all the little bumps that I saw in the oil pan was debris, some sort. And now we have a super clean oil pan with a hole in it still. You may be asking yourself, why are you cleaning an oil pan with a hole in it? And the answer is very simple. We need to patch this hole. The oil pan that I ordered used to replace this was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, it hasn't even left the state that I ordered it from. So I have no clue when I'm gonna get that oil pan. So we're gonna JB weld that hole, and that's gonna be our temporary fix until we get a new oil pan. We can't stop the progress of this video just because USPS doesn't want to ship my oil pan. So I cleaned the oil pan pretty well. I cleaned the hole up really, really well. Let's JB weld it. Now I'm pretty confident at my JB welding skills, but I'm not sure about that one. The hole is pretty big. I squeezed as much as I could in there to try to create a good backing or a good amount of material, but we'll see if it holds. This is just a really good fail-safe. If I don't get the used oil pan in time, I'll use this one. Now we need to find something to do for 24 hours, and I can think of 3 things in the engine bay that need our attention. However, if you remember, I just took that metal bracket off that holds up the radiator. So we need to put that back on temporarily. I'll just put like 4 bolts into it so the radiator don't fall out. The 3 things in the engine bay that we got to do, 2 of them super easy. The third one, I think, kind of easy. We'll find out. But it's just the oil cap, the oil dipstick, and then this broken PCV breather. While we were here and had nothing else to do, I went ahead and checked the air filter, and that was good too. So now, next time you see me, I'll either have a new oil pan or we're gonna put the one with JB Weld on. We'll find out, because right now I don't even know. It is a happy day because we have the new oil pan and I don't have to use the JB welded one. But we have some things that we need to move over from the old pan to the new pan. I think only 2. There's an oil level sensor on the bottom, and there is a little bit of a splash tray, I'll call it, on the side. So we can take those off, put them on the new one. I do actually want to test to see if my JB Weld would have held. So I'm going to just prop it up, pour a little bit of oil in, and we'll let it sit there and see if any oil seeps out. Okay, got everything of importance transferred over. I bought a really cheap oil pan off eBay. I think a quarter of the price of a new one OEM. And it did not come with the bolt holes threaded for that little splash tray. I tried to thread them, but it's not even drilled to the correct size. And it's just not worth it to me. I do not want to spend the time drilling and tapping that and possibly ruin the oil pan. So with the oil pan sorted out, ready to go, we need to do the same thing to the block. So let's get the hoist stand back in place, holding up the radiator, drop down this subframe, as I've been calling it, and then I'm going to use a carbide scraper to gently remove any gunk in the way of the mating surface. Before we install our oil pan, we need to make sure that the oil stays inside the oil pan. It doesn't come with a gasket. We're going to use RTV to seal it. Now, this is one of those fun things to debate in the comment sections. Some people use a bead all the way around. Some people, like me, like to spread it with our fingers. So go ahead in the comments and let me know which one you are, a spreader or a beater. Another thing that differs from RTV to RTV brand is how you install it. What I mean by that is some brands you have to install the oil pan hand tight, let it cure, and then torque it down. I personally have never done that myself, and it seems to hold just fine. So once our RTV is spread, I'm going to put the oil pan on and torque it down. I'm going to torque down the bolts that go from the transmission bell housing to the oil pan to 33 foot-pounds, and the bolts that go from the oil pan to the block to 11 foot-pounds. And now that the oil pan is torqued down, I can plug in the oil level sensor and then bolt in the oil drain for the turbo and the 2 mounts for the charge piping. And I think that is our oil pan repaired. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be, unless my RTV job sucks, which I doubt. Now we can just put that subframe back on that holds up the radiator, and we can lower the car and fill it with oil. Now we have oil in the oil pan, but that does not mean that the engine is lubricated. This thing has been sitting for quite some time. So I want to pop out the spark plugs, pull the fuel fuse, and then turn the key to start turning the engine over and get oil flowing. All right, spark plugs out, so there will be no compression or spark to try to start the engine. Fuel pump is out so that we're not just squirting fuel needlessly into the cylinders. The reason why I emphasize the word try is because this car was obviously in an accident that deployed some airbags. Now, most newer cars have what's called a pyro fuse, so when you get in an accident, it disconnects power to the starter so you can't restart your engine. I'm guessing that's going to be the case with this one, but I'm going to go ahead and reconnect the battery because I disconnected it to charge it. So if I reconnect the battery and turn the key and it doesn't start, we have other issues. The other issue most likely being a blown pyro fuse. Battery is reconnected. This is the first time that I've had power to this car. I see working taillights. I see some lights on the dash. It was beeping for quite a while when I put the battery on. I'm guessing that's the car telling us it's not happy. So now I got the key. I'm gonna go turn the ignition and see what happens. Now this is the first convertible I've owned. I never really aspired to have a convertible, but it's nice because I don't have to get in the car because this thing is still a mess. There's glass everywhere. Okay, key in, on, and start. It might help if I put the car in park. I mean, you could hear Oh, you know what? I might also need to have my foot on the brake. Ah, God, I still gotta get in the car. Oh God, I'm stepping on glass. Okay, what about, I'm not in park, but I'm in neutral, foot's on the brake. Yeah, it just clicks. So I hear the relay clicking for the starter, but then the starter isn't trying to start. I don't know if that's a power issue or a park issue or what's going on. I'm guessing it's not a park issue because it's at least telling the starter to try and start. Oh, by the way, I can see right here, 34,010 miles. Now, I can't get the key out now. This has gone horribly wrong. Okay, I got it back in park. Okay, we're in park now. Let me try again. No, same thing. Starter clicks, doesn't actually turn it over. So my suspicion is that the ignition is going from the ignition to the relay to the starter and is engaging the starter. So you may know that you have a solenoid that pushes the starter motor gear out so that it's contacting your flywheel. The reason why your starter motor moves in and out is because you don't want the teeth of the starter constantly engaged with your flywheel. So you turn the ignition, it moves the gear out, and then it starts turning the motor. So my current theory is that I'm turning the key, it's engaging the starter motor, but it's not actually turning it because of our pyro fuse. We can confirm that by checking if the power wire that's going to the starter actually has 12 volts. So you can see the starter motor here under the intake box. You can see the power wire going to the starter motor, but when I put the voltmeter to it, we only have 25 millivolts, not even 1 full volt. And even if I test the fuse box that's up here, none of that has power too. And if I test the main lug where you're supposed to jump start a car from, even that doesn't have power. So that's telling me that the main giant power wire that comes from the trunk all the way to the front of the car is not supplying power. I'm guessing that's our pyro fuse. Now here's the thing, I don't know where the pyro fuse is. I'm hoping it's on the battery because that's where the Toyota GR Supra was, and it was super easy to change or at least rig it up so that I could continue on with the project. If this was a Porsche, then it would be under the dash and I'd have to take apart the entire dash just to change a fuse. Luckily, that's not the case. Let's go test our battery for a blown pyro fuse. So now you can see that the battery itself has 12 volts, even more a little bit because it's been on the charger recently. So our battery has super good voltage. And from there, I'm just gonna start spreading out from the battery. Does this little lug have power? Does this one have power? Does this one have power? And then we get to the biggest one. And guess what? The biggest one does not have power to it. And that is the one that goes to the front of the car. So again, the biggest cable that connects to the positive battery terminal, it would absolutely make sense that that goes to the front of the car. It's the longest run, so you need a bigger cable. It's got the most power going through it because it has the starter and the alternator, so that totally makes sense. That one does not have power, which means that whatever that cable connects to is our blown pyro fuse. So option one is we can replace that pyro fuse. I haven't bought that yet, so that would take way too long for the context of this video. Option two is you can just honestly run jumper cables from the main battery cable to the post that's not getting power, and obviously the jumper cable is going to jump over the pyro fuse. I decided that I wanted to be a little extra, and since I'm going to do this more than once, I just made a custom cable that I can just keep in the garage and not have to have a 20-foot long jumper cable, get it out of the bag, and set that up every time. So now we can put this custom cable that I made in place. Okay, so now we are jumped from positive all the way to the wire that goes to the front of the car. And obviously I have a very thick cable, so we're not gonna melt it or set it on fire. I'm gonna go ahead and reconnect our negative terminal now. And now if I come back up to the front of the car, I can retest the fuse box, that jumper cable spot, and our starter and see that we have 12 volts at all 3 locations now. So now we can go ahead and do attempt 2 at turning this engine over. And again, the car should not start. It will not start. In fact, we don't have spark plugs or coil packs. We're just cycling the engine over with the spark plugs out, so there's 0 compression to cycle oil through the engine. So again, I don't know if I need brake pressure for this to happen, but let's find out. So again, I'm gonna do no brakes right now, see what happens. Okay, it stopped cycling over, but we're in park, got the brake pressure on. There we go. Okay, I just had to cycle the key. I'm gonna do that a couple more times. We cycled the key 5 times. We should have plenty of oil spread around right now. I say we put our coil packs and spark plugs back in, and let's try for our first start. Here goes nothing. We double checked everything that I can possibly think of that would make a bad first start. We are in time. It spins over by hand. Spark plugs are good. I double checked the air filter, make sure there was no rat nest in there. Air, fuel, spark, and oil. Let's start the car. Or try to. I don't even know if I'm gonna need to get in. Let's try it from here. Okay, I mean, it ran for a little bit. Interesting. I don't know if I'm excited or not. We obviously have some sort of issue preventing it from running, but it starts. It started 5 times, in fact. I don't think it's impossible that something is telling the engine to turn off because of, deployed airbags and something else maybe. Maybe it knows that it has a pyro fuse deployed and it turns off on its own. No clue. Tell you what, I'll quick scan for codes and see if there's something obvious. I'll be right back. Also, don't know if you can tell, really smoky in here. The first couple starts, a lot of smoke came out the back, which, if you remember, when we were bore scoping in, the cylinders were lined pretty heavily with oil, from being upside down. That being said, kind of stinky in here. Hopefully, I don't pass out. I just had an epiphany. When I bought this car, it did not come with a key. I bought a key from Audi, straight from the dealership. I forgot to have it programmed. I'm really surprised that the engine starts. I'm guessing that because the key hasn't been programmed yet, it starts it, immobilizer detects that it's not the right key and turns it off. That's my current guess. And the reason why I had that epiphany is because I can see a code here, anti-theft immobilizer. We have a fault. And guess what? The fault from the immobilizer is saying key implausible signal. So it starts, but it turns right back off because the key has not been programmed. Now I'm pretty sure my Autel can program these keys. I've never done it before. Let's find out. I'm probably gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna Google how to program a key. I'll be right back. Well, good and bad news. The good news is the engine did start and it did run for a whole 2 seconds at a time. I thought that my Autel could program keys. Turns out it can, but only if you have a key already. So I can read the key data and copy it to a new key. I cannot program a key from scratch, or as it's called, all keys lost programming. So I guess future me will take over from here and let you know what option we're going with. It is a new day. In fact, it's a new week and I got a haircut. It took me quite a while to get someone out here and try to program our Audi key. We have good news and bad news. Let's start with the good news. Good news number 1 is that our JB Weld oil pan held. This oil has been sitting in here for a week and none of it is on the floor. It's all still in the pan. So if you ever have a hole in your oil pan and you need a temporary fix, this should do. Good news number 2, related to our locksmith. They, in fact, did program our key, and check this out. It runs, and it doesn't shut off. Also, if I put it in gear, it drives. We also have reverse. They spin backwards. And now that we have verified that the heart of this car is good, we can talk about the important stuff. The important things being money. KBB and Carfax say that the value of this car with a clean title with the mileage that it has is probably around $25,000. I don't know if I would quite get that much for this car. Let's just be safe and say that this one's probably worth around $17,000. At the beginning of the video, I told you that I paid $2,300 for this car, which is true. But if you include taxes, shipping, and Copart fees, I actually spent $4,900. And of course, we still have a lot to repair. So let's go over those prices. I have my phone with some prices written down. Now this is just a super quick search on eBay. For 2 doors, 2 quarter panels, 2 fenders, 1 headlight, a carbon fiber hood because I couldn't find a used one, a front bumper and a grille, a front windshield, a trunk, and that rear splitter thing, we would be looking at around $6,500 for just replacement body parts. After we replace all of those body parts, we would have to paint it. I would paint it myself, and just for paint, it would probably be around $3,000. Now that paint is probably expensive. I could buy cheaper stuff. This is for expensive paint. PPG, Delfleet, it's really good paint. There are cheaper options. So now we have a new body that is painted, but we obviously have a lot of other issues. To replace just that corner of the suspension, so an axle, brake caliper, front lower control arm, the front strut, and our front subframe, not to mention every little piece on the front of the car, we would be looking at $1,500. And this is as far as I got before I just stopped. This doesn't include repairing the frame, repairing the wiring, any broken or missing bolts. I don't even know if things like the convertible top work. I don't know if the spoiler works. There's just a lot of unknowns. But with just what I have written down here, the car's value, the price I paid, the body parts, the paint, the repair parts, that only leaves us $1,100 for every other thing. I mean, I need new rims, I need tires, front radar sensors. There's a lot. If only there were a way that I could repair this car or make a good car out of it without spending all that money. What if I just bought this 2013 Audi TT at auction, sight unseen, for $2,000. Now, this one is in a little bit better condition than the red rolled over one, but it comes with its own issues. For instance, there's a hole in the quarter panel, which sucks because I did not notice that hole in the auction images. They upload such blurry photos that I thought it was just a scratch. But let's not get off topic and go on a rant, because I want to show you around this Audi TT because I think we have a really cool plan. But before we get started and take a look around, I desperately want to get this thing cleaned up. Let's go give it a wash. Well, that's a little better. I didn't really expect perfect, but I expected a little bit better than this. Apparently, I think there's a lot of tree sap. I'm gonna try some Goo Gone, see if I can get this just a little bit better before we start looking at it. Well, whoever had this Audi TT before me definitely did not take care of the paint. This thing is filthy. I did like 5 layers of Goo Gone, and it is still disgusting. I even tried cutting and polishing an area, and this paint needs some love. But that sounds like a problem for future me. Let's find out what I just bought. The exterior of the car is pretty good, except for, the paint that we just discussed. And the giant hole in the quarter panel. And, they must have had a leak because they put silicone around the top of the windshield. So gonna have to figure out how to clean that up because it looks pretty gross. The headlights are a little faded. They need to be restored. And this one grill piece that we're missing is actually on the interior of the car, so good to go there. The interior of the car, while a little dirty, is pretty nice. I actually like this interior a lot. We have an aftermarket Sony stereo. We don't have any blown airbags, which is a huge bonus compared to the red one. I think the only thing that the interior is missing is just the lever for the hood release, which is hilarious because the red one is also missing that. They must be a common thing to break. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but the black Audi here, while I think it's high mileage, but it is a clean title car. So you may be asking, how did you get a clean title car for $2,000 when all it has is a hole in the quarter panel? Well, it's because of that. It's missing an engine, or at least some of it. I'm guessing that the previous owner blew up the engine and thought, I can fix it, tore it all apart, realized he did not want to fix it, and that was that. You might be getting the full picture at this point. We have a rolled over red Audi TTS with a good heart, a good engine, and we have a black Audi with no crash damage except for a hole in the quarter panel and no engine. There is just 1 or 2 or 3 or 6 major issues with this. This has an EA113. That black car over there has an EA888. I also double checked. The ECU that's underneath the cowl has a part number ending in BF, and that one has a part number ending in BG. So while I thought I was just gonna take this engine out and put it in there, that does not seem to be the case. In order to make this work, I'm going to need the ECU from the red rollover TTS as well. But that car's ECU is tied to that car's key with what is called an immobilizer. So I need to either disable the immobilizer or take every single module out of the red rolled over TTS and put it in the black holy TT. Another option is to repair the red rolled over TTS's frame, paint it, and rebuild it from the ground up. But the last time I took a project like that on, it ended up taking over a year to finish and over 50% of the car's value just to get it done. Both of which are not good things, so while it is an option, it's probably not the best option. It turns out that even if I don't repair this chassis, I'm going to completely gut the car anyway and take all the cool TTS parts, put it on the black holy TT, and then part out the rest. So regardless of whether I'm repairing the red rolled over TTS or harvesting its organs for the black Audi TT, we need to gut this thing down to the bare bones. So finally, let's get started. I want to start with the front of the car and work my way backwards. So let's start with the headlight, the crash bar, the fender liner, and the cooling system. Next up, we have to drain the oil and the coolant. To be honest, I wasn't really looking forward to draining the coolant. That's why I didn't do it first, but we got to get it done. Now, the part that I was really not looking forward to, we got to pull the hose off and we got to make a mess. Oh, like none came out. Okay. Making a big deal for nothing. Okay, I forgot to take the cap off the coolant. There we go. Oh yeah, there it goes. Okay, oil is drained and coolant is drained. There's definitely more coolant to come out of this. I'm really surprised with how little came out from that one hose that we took off. I took off as much of the front of the car as I could. I'm stuck at the AC condenser. Believe it or not, the AC system is still charged. So I have to buy a tool to go ahead and suck all of the refrigerant out because letting it into the atmosphere is very illegal and very bad for the environment. So since we're stuck on the front of the car with the AC condenser, I'm gonna move to the top of the engine bay. I'm gonna start taking off the wipers, the cowl, the air intake box, the radiator fans, and anything else I see along the way. There is definitely more work that we could do in the engine bay to prep to pull the engine. There's wires, downpipe, drive shaft, axles, all sorts of stuff. But I'd rather just wait until we have all the cooling stuff on the front off for more room to work. So let's take this corner of the suspension off. None of this is usable. The control arm is bent, the sway bar end link is bent, the axle is cut in half, the outer tie rod is bent, the hub might be good, but I'd rather not risk it. And then of course, the top of the strut is bent. This is way worse than I thought it was going to be. I'll start by saying, I don't know if our main chassis leg here is bent, but what I can tell you is that the subframe does not line up with the holes. Now, whether the subframe is bent or this chassis leg is bent, I can't really see a bend anywhere. But what I can tell you is that the wheelhouse is very, very broken. And the apron. The wheelhouse and apron, very broken. Obviously, right here, there's a hole right here. And most importantly, the worst part of all the damage is that we are split, cracked, broken in our firewall area. I'm gonna take off some of the seam sealer and paint right here. I wanna see how bad this is, because this is crazy. New technique for getting rid of seam sealer without creating a mess. It's faster to use like a wire wheel, but it's just so messy. When I did the Supra, I hammered and chiseled all of it. that was awful. This is way better. Faster, easier on the muscles. I did a little seam sealer removal here, see if it was messed up there as well. This looks okay. Obviously, we'd have to cut it out anyway because we have a giant hole here. But this would basically be a repeat of the Supra, where from the firewall forward, I would be cutting off the entire frame, at least on this side. What I'm saying is we are definitely not saving this TTS. There is no way that you guys want to watch me repair this frame for the next 3 months. But that's okay. That's why we have 2 Audi TTs. We're gonna make one good one. I still get the benefit of 35,000 mile Audi TTS engine. Plus, I'm gonna take the brakes. I haven't decided yet, but I can take the interior if I want the TTS interior. And instead of losing money repairing this, I will most likely gain money repairing the Audi TT. So to me, it's just a no-brainer. Shorter time to complete the project, same car, because we still have all of the TTS components. Cheaper to do, more profit in the end. Home run, if you ask me. We are still going to gut this car, and we're still going to list everything we don't need on eBay. That is going to recoup a huge portion of this cost. Now, I haven't checked yet, but the price of this convertible top might be a pretty penny. So let's take a break from disassembling the car and see if our convertible top works. All right, battery's reconnected. I really don't know if the convertible top's gonna work, you know, with the current state of the thing, but let's try it. Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, look how far off the A-pillars are. Holy cow. And the problem is, you can't just bend that back in place because it's aluminum. Or at least I don't know how to bend it back in place. It's not like steel where you can heat it up, bend it back in place, and tap it with a hammer to relieve the stress. It's not that easy. But the convertible top works and it looks really good. It's a little dirty, but there's no holes in it. That should save us a lot of money. And by the way, I looked it up on eBay. I could only find one other comparable, $1,500. If I sell this thing for $1,000, that just covered 20% of the cost of the car. Now, I won't go into the final price yet because obviously we're not there. We still might have to buy some stuff for the black TT, not to mention we have to paint it. But in the end, I think we're going to have a huge steal of a car. Okay, enough about the convertible top. I do want to check out this interior though, because if I'm considering taking the TTS interior and putting it in the TT, we should see if any of it is good or usable. Which means we get to one of my favorite parts of buying crash cars is going through somebody else's interior and seeing what they left in it. First things first, empty shoebox. Not very fun. Missing trim piece where the hood lever goes. Broken plastic, broken piece of the bumper. A neck brace. Good thing they have this because they're gonna need it after the accident. Plastic piece for the end of the dash. Mirror. More broken bumper, broken plastic. Part of our rim. T-shirt. What kind of t-shirt? Snap-on t-shirt. Hold up. Rollin' Thunder snap-on t-shirt. Oh, here we go. Audi book with all the stuff in it. All right. Looks like broken mirror, trash, broken plastic, broken rubber, a mask in a bag, TT floor covers with nails in it. That's interesting. See, part of our windshield. Now, fun fact, you just saw me grab the windshield, bare hands, no gloves. Not gonna get cut. All of this glass, you don't have to worry about getting cut with it. I can rub my hands on it. It's tempered glass, is designed to shatter and break in a way that won't let you get cut. Broken part of the headlight, broken fog light, broken part of the headlight, broken part of the headlight, a glove, another glove, a lot of broken plastic. Now, there was really nothing in the driver's side area, but I just cut away the airbags, took the floor mat out, and vacuumed up the glass as well. Now, I haven't decided yet, but it might be pretty cool to have the TTS seats and door panels in the TT. So I want to take these seats out and clean them up. I'm getting deja vu of the GR Supra project here. The shop is filling up really quick, and we're not even like halfway done disassembling the car. All of these parts up here that I'm pointing at, circling with my hand here, those are all broken. Eventually those are all just get thrown out of the shop until I can take them to the dump or to the scrapyard. But back to the program. I said I was cleaning the seats, and then I took delivery of the tool that I need to evacuate the AC so we can actually pull the engine. So before I start cleaning the seats, let's unpack the device that we have, and I believe we need to pull a vacuum on our tank that's going to eventually hold the Freon. We don't want to mix the Freon with nitrogen or any atmospheric air, so we need to pull the vacuum on that first. I think it's going to take like an hour to pull the vacuum on our tank, so while that's pulling vacuum, then I'll clean our seats. %99 of the seat is good. Just, I don't know what this black stuff is, but it does not come off. And if I do pick it off with my fingernail, it takes a little bit of the coloring in the leather with it, unfortunately. So I don't know if I'll use these seats in the TT. I would love to. If you guys have any idea of what this is and how to get it off without completely ruining the seat, I would love to know, because I think it'd be cool to bring a lot of this TTS interior with us. I'm always counting on you guys in the comments to help me along these projects. You guys have always been so helpful, so let's keep that up. Okay, it is the next day. Complications with this whole AC thing. My first time doing it, didn't really know what I had, what I needed, how to do it, all sorts of things. So now at this point we have a recovery machine, we have manifold gauges, we have a vacuum pump, we have a tank or a canister to hold the Freon, and the Pittsburgh manifold gauge doesn't have the right hose to connect to the recovery machine, and then I needed a whole extra hose to go from the recovery machine to the tank. So not only did I not have the right hose, I didn't have enough hoses. Nobody in town had the hoses I needed or the adapters to make the yellow hose work. So it's just been a whole thing to try to get this AC recovery working. Since nobody had the right hoses for me or the right adapters, and I didn't want to wait a week to order it online, I just went to Harbor Freight and bought an extra set of manifold gauges, and we're going to make one manifold gauge set that works. So both of these yellow hoses are the wrong size, but now I have 2 blue and 2 red hoses that are the correct size. So I need to take one of the adapters from the old manifold gauge set and take off the yellow manifold gauge adapter, thread on the correct size, and that should give us one manifold gauge set with the correct size adapters to work with this recovery machine and this tank. So finally, let's get all of this hooked up and start recovering this AC, because it's going to take 30 minutes to an hour, I believe. We need to hook up the manifold gauges to the low and high side, and then hook up the blue and red hose here. The red hose is going to the recovery machine, and then the blue hose is going to the tank. Got everything almost hooked up and ready. The first thing we want to do is weigh our tank before we fill it to see how much we actually put in it, because obviously there's no gauge on it to tell. So right now we weigh 14 pounds, 9.4 ounces. I'm going to write that down. Now it's important that you do that weight after you've pulled your vacuum, so it's completely empty, and before you attach any hoses, because you don't want the hose to skew the weight. Now we can attach our hose to the tank. Again, usually you'd have one blue hose, one red hose going to the vehicle, and then the rest of the hoses would be yellow. This is just me using whatever I got laying around after going to Harbor Freight 3 times to make everything work. So we got a blue hose going to the low side, a red hose going to the high side. The blue hose in the middle is going to a filter that ends up going to the recovery unit. And then we have a red hose that goes from the recovery unit to the tank. But right now, every valve is closed. So now we're ready to finally connect our hoses to the car. So now both of our lines are connected to the car. Our manifold is still closed. We should be able to open both of the ones connected to the car. I'm gonna look away in case anything squirts out. Low and high side are both open. Here's our starting measurements. Low side's up at 70 PSI. High side is also around 75 PSI. Now this is probably not the official way to purge any air out of the system, but it is the way that I'm gonna do it because I don't have valves on all of my hoses. If you had valves on every side of your hose, you could technically hook all of this up instead of to the tank, to the vacuum machine, and pull all of the air out of it before you get to this point. I don't have valves on my hoses, so I can't do that. So what we're gonna do, what I don't recommend this, is we're gonna slowly open these hoses to let all of the air out. Okay, so purge that one. Now we're gonna purge the high side. So now the lines from the car to the manifold gauges are purged of any air, nitrogen, oil, whatever. So now we wanna open our gauges. We're gonna leave the high side closed at this point still. We're gonna do low side first here. So now our low side is open, high side is closed. Let the air out of the line that goes from the gauge to the machine. So we have Freon from the car to the gauges, from the gauges to the machine. So now the tank is still closed. We're gonna turn the machine on. And then we're gonna purge out the line that goes to the tank. Don't open the tank yet. Okay, every line currently has no air in it, just Freon. So now we're gonna turn the machine on and then open up the valve that goes to the tank. And then we'll finally be evacuating the Freon into the tank and not into the atmosphere. And now we can see the low side is slowly coming down along with our high side. So now we're gonna let this run on recover slow until both gauges read 0. So now both gauges are reading 0. In fact, we're already kind of pulling a vacuum. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the high pressure side. So now every valve is open. I'm gonna put it on recover fast and just let it run for a while to make sure we got everything out. So we've been recovering, pulling vacuum for quite a while. The first thing we're gonna do before we shut the machine off is close our tank. And now, recovery's done. We can take everything off. And now we can reweigh the tank and see that it weighs 15 pounds, 5.1 ounces. So originally our tank weighed 14 pounds, 9.4 ounces. And then now the tank weighs 15 pounds, 5.1 ounces, which if you use a calculator, because I'm not that smart, we have 11.7 ounces of Freon, which seems like not a lot. I don't know how much it's supposed to have. I thought they had like pounds of Freon, but apparently this one only had 11 ounces, 11.7 ounces. So now, so I don't forget, I'm just gonna quick painter's tape on the tank and write 11.7 ounces of R134A, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of a cleanup because the shop's getting pretty unorganized and messy, and it's gonna get even more full because next up we're pulling this engine. Okay, well, we cleaned up a little bit. It's not perfect. It'll never be perfect until the red car is completely torn apart and out of the shop. But with our Freon finally evacuated and the shop cleaned and organized just a little bit, it's time to take off the front clip and dig into how this engine and transmission are coming out of this car. And that is everything in front of the engine and transmission out of the way. At this point, there is 8 more things that we need to consider before we can pull the engine and transmission. 3 of them are mounts. We have a transmission mount, an engine mount, and a dog bone mount on the bottom. 4, 5, and 6 are an exhaust, a drive shaft, and an axle. Number 7 is wiring. Now I want to keep as much of that plugged in and in place as possible. So if I can take out the ECU and bring all of that with me and not have to unplug anything, that would be best. The 8th problem is the most time consuming. If you guys have been here since the GR Super build, you may remember when I almost tipped the car over on me. Turns out when you have the entire front half of the car no longer attached to the car, the rear becomes really heavy. But since we are gutting this entire car anyway, the 8th step before we pull the engine and transmission, disassemble the entire rear of the car so it's not rear heavy. So I thought we were really close to pulling the engine and transmission. Turns out we have a lot of work to do. We want to do the 3 mounts that I listed last so we don't drop the engine out of the car. So I say we start with the exhaust, the drive shaft, the axle, and the front left corner suspension. I can't get this last drive shaft bolt, and I need to move the drive shaft to get the axle. I don't want to lower the car. I can't turn the drive shaft because it didn't park, I guess. Okay, I gotta go shift it in neutral. How am I gonna do that? Well, if I'm gonna do stupid stuff, I might win stupid prizes. I might as well let you watch. Oh yeah, easy peasy. Being lazy is just more fun sometimes. Now let's go get the exhaust off. I took off the dog bone, so the engine and transmission have some sway to it. I unbolted the front of the drive shaft so I can move that as far over. Now I have one more nut on the downpipe, and that should be the exhaust or the downpipe ready to come off. All right. Whew. I knew that one bolt was gonna take forever, but exhaust is loose. We just take off these two nuts and hopefully it comes out. Downpipe catalytic converter. I don't know if this has two catalytic converters or just one. I don't know if this is a resonator, muffler, catalytic converter. I'm not sure, but it's off. That gives us plenty of room to take off the back half of the exhaust and our drive shaft. That was the heaviest muffler I've ever lifted. That thing, you want some weight savings on your Audi TT? Replace your back box or your muffler. That's exhaust and drive shaft. Also the dog bone, I had to take the dog bone out in order to take the exhaust off. So now, front left corner, suspension, and axle. Why'd they do that? The lower control arm bolt runs into the transmission. I'll take out the rest of the suspension here when we take out the engine and transmission. For now, that's a majority of the weight gone. And I believe that is steps 3, 4, 5, and 6 complete. I don't know who made this order, but they should get fired. Steps 1 and 2 are the engine and transmission mount. Those will be last. Step 7 is the wiring. Step 8 is the rear suspension. And I think we should do step number 8 next. I feel like this is going to be a long one. I have no clue what order things are going to come down in. We have wheels, fender liners, heat shields, gas tanks, wiring, suspension, subframe. All of that has to come off in some sort of order, and I don't know, so let's find out together. Boy, did I do that the wrong way. I'm gonna need a break after that. That wasn't it, as the kids say, you know? So I didn't know if the fuel filler neck was gonna come out with it, so I couldn't put the car all the way up, or I wouldn't be able to reach the fuel filler neck. But then my hoist stand was too tall. My jack was too short. Oh God, I should have used the transmission jack. The transmission jack would have solved all my problems there. Well, you live and you learn. I won't do it that way again. That one's on there real tight. Broke my extension. Snap-on too. Gonna need impact sockets for that one. Okay, I think that's it. I don't see anything holding it. I'm a little rear heavy, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. Ah, god damn it. Okay, turns out I wasn't rear heavy. I was pretty much balanced. This little flimsy plastic was holding it up. Guess it's not very flimsy. And that is number 8. I even threw in the gas tank into that. I just said the rear suspension. Figured why not get the gas tank? It was kind of in the way anyway. That leaves number 7, the wiring, and 1 and 2, the engine and transmission mount. 1 and 2 are literally 7 bolts between them. Super easy. So we just got to get this wiring sorted out so we can pull this engine and transmission. Now, I am very tired and dirty and sweaty, so I'm going to call it a night, and I'll be back very shortly. And we are back. I went ahead and looked over the rear end that I kind of not really dropped. It more like tipped over. It tipped over onto the control arms and then, you know, landed on the subframe. So just wanted to make sure that the high ticket item, the rear diff, was okay. Don't see any scratches, dents. I don't even think it touched it. So we're good to go. A little bit of an oopsie. Should have been more careful or just more observant. But luckily, 0 damage. We're ready to move on to number 7, the wiring. I have no clue how this is going to go. Again, the goal is to keep as much of the wiring attached to the engine as possible and just disconnect it from the car. Hopefully, it's that easy. Let's start digging in. Okay, that was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be. A+ Audi. The engine harness stays with the engine. The body harness stays with the body. Who would have thought? The only concerning thing that I've found so far is that the transmission plug is on the body harness. I was hoping it would be on the engine harness side, stay with the engine harness, but it makes sense that, you know, the engine harness is separate from the transmission. I guess that makes sense. Now I know I said it was just wiring, but there was other things. There was a shifter linkage, an AC line, and 2 coolant lines that go to the HVAC system. That literally leaves step number 1 and 2, the engine and transmission mount, and this thing should come off. So I think it's finally time that we set up our engine hoist, our chains, and see if this thing is gonna come out nicely. Okay, here goes nothing. Just need to unbolt the mounts and pull it out, I think. What could go wrong? Nothing. We did it! This right here, on eBay, $5,000 for the engine and transmission, not including intake turbo, wiring, intake piping, alternator. This is a lot of money we saved by buying an entire car. Let alone, we're gonna part out a bunch of it and recoup most, if not all of our money. What I'm saying is, this was basically free. Now let's get it on a tire or something to stop floating in the air. We are on a couple tires here. I think it'll stay. What's the worst that could happen if it doesn't stay? I just lose thousands of dollars if it falls. Maybe we should have just kept it in the car. If I shake it, it don't fall over. I think we're good. I'm gonna leave the chain and the hoist attached anyway as a little bit of a safety net. Now you can see why I wanted to leave as much of that attached as possible, because now instead of putting an engine in, wiring it, putting all the accessories on, put the transmission on, we do all of what I just said in one step. I will admit it was a little bit tighter coming out than I thought it was gonna be. Really thought it was just gonna go up and back, but there's a little bit more in the way than I thought. Now, while that might have been the goal for what we need for the other car, actually scratch that, we still need part of this quarter panel for the other car. So we still need more stuff from this car for the other one, but that is obviously the main piece that we needed. However, at the beginning of this video, I stated that the goal was to gut this thing entirely so we can either repair it or part it out, and we decided we're gonna part it out. So we still have a lot of work to do. So let's continue our journey with the engine bay. There is still a lot up here. We have the brake booster and the brake master cylinder. We have the ABS module, we have the steering rack, we have the subframe, we have wiring, we have heat shielding, AC lines, and much more, I'm sure, once we get all of that out of the way. I think we're stuck on the engine bay for now. The steering rack, the brake booster, the wiring, that's all going to be a lot easier to take off with the interior gutted. So I think we should start gutting this interior. However, I think that's going to be a pain in the butt with the glass in the shape that it's in. I bought some new tools to try to take this glass out a little bit easier. Here are the two tools that I bought. I got a cold knife for the multi-tool, and I got a torpedo for the Sawzall. Hopefully this makes it easier. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, I didn't even end up using the torpedo, only because I couldn't. I didn't think about this before, but with the glass laying flat and the A-pillars bent down, there wasn't enough room to get the torpedo in there with how crunched up this is. So I'm sure that works when you're not dealing with a rolled over car, but that is okay because the oscillating tool cold knife combo was the trick. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Now we can finally start gutting the interior. Started by getting everything a little bit cleaner so I can see what's actually worth money and what's actually worth taking out of this car. There's no way I want to spend a week gutting the interior when none of it is usable. Turns out that was a really good idea because the dash is messed up, the steering wheel is scarred, the center console has some gouges, and the shroud around the gauges is probably the worst of it. Now that does cut into the money we're going to make quite a bit. However, there is still a lot of money to be made. It seems like the door panels are about $150 each. The hazard switch here is around $100. The climate control is around $100. And then the radio is around $200. So there is plenty of money to be made from this interior. So let's start taking everything that's worth it. And after a little break and letting Cam play with the steering wheel, making sure he grows up right, we can get back to work, gutting more of this interior. And we finally got that steering column out. That was painful, mostly because I didn't know how to get this one last wire out. It was attached to the ignition and you couldn't unplug it because it was running into the steering column. It took me a while to figure out how it all came apart. But the whole reason we switched to working on the interior is because the steering column was keeping the rack in and the brake pedal was keeping the booster in. Now that both of those are out, let's clean out the interior so it's ready for later, and then let's come to the front of the car and gut the rest of this engine bay. Okay, I think that is the engine bay done. I mean, the last thing that's up here is brake lines, fuel lines, and wiring. The wiring needs to go through the firewall, which we need to take the dash out to do that. And the brake lines and fuel lines are kind of useless. I mean, The other car already has them, and you can't really sell them on eBay because you would need a 20-foot long box, and the odds of them getting bent and shipping are just high, so nobody really sells them used and wants to ship them. So the front half of the car is done. I want to work on the interior of the car, which is just the dash and the convertible top and wiring. I did a little investigating. I couldn't figure out how to get this radio out because apparently you need a special tool. So I ordered those. Those are on the way. We can't take the dash out until we take the stereo out, so we're gonna have to wait for the tools. So let's just do the little bit we can on the front half of the interior since we can't do the dash yet, and that is just the glove box, the A-pillar trims, just to get the wiring down from there. You can tell this car slid on the ground by how many rocks are in this piece of trim. Shouldn't be rocks up here. Okay, that is the wiring and the trims out of the way. That's the glove box out of the way, so we're ready for the dash. Now we just need the special tool to remove our stereo so we can remove the dash. So let's turn around, see what we can do back here. Okay, done for the night here, but I wanted to just quickly show how everything starts adding up when you're parting out a car. So glove box, since this still has the airbag in it, this seems to be around $100. These three things on the chair, all $100 each. The gas pedal and the e-brake are $40 each. And then this whole lot here, all of these modules, switches are $20 each. So 160 plus 480, $640 worth of goodies, all from the interior. I think we're doing pretty good, is what I'm saying. Next day, Saturday, I got about 6 or 8 hours of time today to try and get this thing completely torn apart. That means we need to kick butt today. I want to go back to the idea of working my way front to back. That was pretty cool. I liked it. And then we ran into the problem of I didn't have the tools to take out the radio. I have those now. So let's get this carpet cleaned up so I'm not sitting on rocks and shards of glass, and then continue with our dash disassembly. Okay, now that was pretty rough getting that dash pad out, only because I knew I wasn't going to sell it or use it to anybody. Just wanted to get it out of the way. What I want is the HVAC system and the wires. So now that that's out of the way, let's get what we came here for. Finally. I don't know why they decided to mount a bunch of the wires with bolts on the back of this. Not very fun. Now, I didn't Google this yet, but I want to see how much this is. I needed to take it off to get the wires anyway. A lot of work for me to get this wire harness. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. Okay, back at it with this wiring. The HVAC box, heater core box, whatever you want to call it. Everyone calls it something different. I saw one listed for $150. I saw one listed for $300. Don't know what the difference is, so we'll just say $100 for that heater core box, which is honestly less than I expected. Time to get these wires out, because that'll be the front half of the car done, and I think after this we go to the trunk. Listen, Audi, do not make the hole that your wiring goes through this. You made the hole smaller than the wires that gotta go through it. You did the same thing on the other side. How is that a good idea? Now I gotta unbolt and break away the metal to get the wiring through. Dash is out, carpet's out, center console's out, seats are out, wiring is out from the front all the way to the trunk. Okay, little break, but we gotta get back to it. I think it would be very, very nice to have this Audi off of the lift by the end of this video, which means that we need to finish gutting it so that the usefulness of it is over. I don't know how I'm gonna get it off via the lift, but that's a problem for future me. So let's continue on with the trunk. I don't want to mess with the convertible top until I know that I have access to every bolt, and I don't know if any bolts are needed to be accessed from the trunk. So let's tear this trunk apart. I think you guys get the point. I'm going to be rummaging around in here, taking every wire off of the little plastic connector that keeps it to the car. So I'll be back when the trunk is done. Trunk is good enough for now, done enough for now. It's a good thing that I did do this. Again, the goal kind of to get the convertible top out. The pump and the hydraulic fluid is in the trunk, so I definitely needed to do this before the convertible top. I still have a bunch of wires all around the trunk area that I got to get out for like the taillights, the trunk, the rear bumper, the charcoal canister underneath, the fuel pump. All of that stuff still needs to come out. So we're not done back here, but I think we're ready to see how this convertible top is going to come out. It seems like the little flaps and then this like motorized divider need to come out first, but I don't know. So let's just dig in and find out. Good job. All right, convertible top's out. Thanks to my lovely wife. I don't know if I would have did it solo. And now we are all the way from the front of the car to the trunk area. The convertible top was not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Just a little awkward and heavy to do solo. Now to finish up this disassembly, take apart the trunk, take out the headlights, raise the vehicle up, do the rear bumper, do the charcoal canister underneath, and then just get the last of the wiring in a big bundle, and we are done. Oh, there we go. Adjustable wing. I didn't even check how much this is. I should start checking how much stuff is before I spend a bunch of time taking it off. But that is the trunk gutted. Time for the taillights. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn the camera down to look at the bumper. I'm getting tired. I'm sorry. I took the bumper off. It's right here. I'm just taking the parking sensors and the wires, and we're done with the bumper. That was it. Parking sensors and wire. Right, now we're just gonna put the bumper back on, and it'll go to the dump with the rest of the car. Now, car goes back up in the air, and we get the charcoal canister stuff and the last of the wiring under there. I have no clue if you can do that with the subframe in. Okay, all the hoses we're just gonna leave on. I'm not taking all those hoses off. Here's some wiring. Definitely want that. Okay, is that everything under here? No, it's not. There's one more thing. It's the negative cable or positive. I can't remember. This is the positive one. There's the positive cable. Unfortunately, they made it go through the side skirt. Can't take the side skirt off because it's on the 2-post lift. Well, let's give it a go anyway. Oh, got it. Oh boy, I'm getting so tired, but we're so close. We gotta finish it. Underneath is done. There's 2 wires that we gotta pull up from the trunk area, but underneath the car is done. The engine bay is also completely done. We have wires in the wheel well, and those are super easy. After that, we just need to get the wires from the trunk to the cabin, and I think we're done. Okay, everything is officially inside of the trunk or inside of the cabin. We just need to get all of the wires from the trunk to the cabin. So, that sounds really easy. What could go wrong? Let's do it. There it is. The chassis harness of a 2015 Audi TTS. That is also a convertible. That was a lot of work. Let's get this thing cleaned out, make sure we're not missing anything that we want, and we'll take a final look. And that would be our Audi TTS. Completely gutted. Nothing in the trunk, nothing in the interior, nothing up front. I drew the line at the doors and the door panels because the doors I would have to just put right back on. The door panels, like the rest of the interior, were scratched up. Sure, I could get like the speakers and the window motors, but I'm calling it there. Now there is still a little bit to do, and it is clean and organized. Luckily, you don't have to watch that. Most of this is trash. And luckily for me, that entire car right there is a giant trash bin that's gonna go to the scrapyard, and the heavier it weighs, the more I get paid. Now I will be nice and try to put mostly metal in there because I don't wanna just give them a bunch of plastic that they can't recycle. Why not be nice and give them metal? So the next thing I'm going to do is clean and organize, and at the same time put all of the trash that I can in the Audi. So I'll be back when that's done. 4 days later, I have not touched anything in here. I've been editing and trying to make better thumbnails like crazy. I feel like, personal opinion, my videos are a little better than the view count they get. Could just be my opinion. So I've been trying to work on better thumbnails. Maybe that's why I get, 10,000 views instead of 100,000. But regardless, we're back in the garage. I want to try and organize the entire garage tonight. And when I say that, I just mean get everything that I can inside the car so that I can tomorrow get the car off the lift. I only have like 2 hours to do that, so it might be quite the goal. I had one thought before I start putting stuff in the car. I realized I did not check the inside corner where the accident happened. Ooh, oh yeah. There is not supposed to be a dent right there. See how that side is nice and round and smooth? This side is not. I honestly did not expect to have any damage in there. It doesn't change the plan regardless, but glad we checked, because pretty gnarly that it's dented all the way inside there. Now back to work. I would like to get every piece of trash I can inside of this Audi TTS before I get the car off the lift and onto the trailer. Again, don't know how I'm going to do that, but we'll find out. Pretty quick to load that up. Thought that was gonna take longer. I didn't get all the trash in there, but I got 95% of it. Now I'm gonna just ratchet strap everything down, make sure nothing flies away. Mostly just around the hood and doors, and then around the trunk, maybe that tire. Good to go. We're almost ready to load this car in the trailer. The idea, the hope, is that I can lift up the car on the lift, back the trailer in between the lift. I just measured the posts. The posts are 113 inches apart, and the trailer is 103 inches wide. If my math checks out, that means I have 5 inches on each side for my trailer to go under the car and lower the car onto the trailer. I'm not that good at backing up trailers, but we will make it work. For now, what we need to do is make sure that I can actually back the trailer up, which means that everything in front of it, like the engine, the wire harness, the exhaust, the drive shaft, everything in the way needs to be out of the way. So one more time, here's a before and after. Now it's super late, so I'm gonna call it a night, but tomorrow, lift the car up and back the trailer up underneath it. It should be that easy. Well, we're officially off of the 2-post lift and on 2 different jacks. Now we just gotta get off the jacks and onto the trailer. I think that'll be the easy part. I think I'm kind of too close to this side of the trailer. Okay. I saved the car from tipping. Maybe I should lower it a little bit. Slowly. Slowly. We're okay. This is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. It's okay. It's okay. I knew this was gonna happen. Oh, I'm strong. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't think that would work. It still wants to tip that way though. Well, I guess I just let it back down slowly. 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 There we go. Okay, tip the other way. This is progress, this is progress. Now I just need the car to be on something so that I can get the jacks out. I don't think I have enough wood for that, but we'll try. Okay, hold on, I remembered I have cinder blocks. All right, here we go. I got bricks. Okay, we're off the jack in the back. If I can just get off of this one up front. Okay, I think that should be it. Oh, there we go. We're not even on these bricks, but shove them under there. So if it does rock, there's something for it to rock onto. But we are officially off the 2-post lift on the trailer with no jack stands. Well, that was a little bit more drama than I expected, but we are officially off of the lift. Now, please understand that I am not trying to drag this video out, but I forgot one more thing. We need the quarter panel off of the red car to fix the giant hole in the black Audi TT. So let me just go ahead and pull the car forward, or I guess the truck and trailer forward, and let's cut off this quarter panel. I really only need this bottom section here, but I wanted some practice pieces. I'm gonna be honest, it's actually thicker than I thought it was gonna be. I was worried it was gonna be pretty thin. This piece isn't perfect, but it's better than a hole. And now we're finally done with the red rolled over Audi TTS. There is literally nothing on this that I could possibly need, except for maybe some of the many plastic interior pieces that I threw away. But I don't think so, or I would have kept them. So we can finally send it off with a, that ain't going anywhere. You know, maybe I will actually ratchet strap it down to the trailer, just not right now. Today, it's the black Audi TT's turn. We've explored the outside already. The paint needs love, there's a hole in the quarter panel, and the engine bay is lacking. But I have yet to explore underneath this car. So let's get it on the lift and find out if the chassis, lines, suspension, and subframes are all good enough to make a TTS-powered TT. Cars in the air, let's go explore. My first thoughts being under here is, man, is everything caked in oil and grime. The transmission's black. Oil pan is actually supposed to be black, but it's still covered in grime. Here's our timing chain, not inside of the engine where it's supposed to be. I do notice, look at this, ShawnzeyRacing coilovers. So that's cool. We got some aftermarket coilovers. None of the CV boots on the axles are broken. The control arms look straight. The sway bar looks straight. Overall, everything that we're keeping looks great. The engine, the trans, the wiring, it's all coming out. There's some broken wires. You can see right here, broken wires. But how happy am I that we do not care? We have a whole other engine harness going in this car. Working our way back, we have stock exhaust, stock catalytic converters. That's awesome. We're gonna sell those, or we're gonna sell the ones from the old car, or maybe both if we buy aftermarket. Catalytic converters are super expensive. We can get a lot of money back with those. Nothing super concerning in the back. We still have the stock exhaust. Our rear diff is a little dirty, but I don't see any active leaks. Again, none of the axle CV boots are broken. None of the control arms or the sway bar end links. Nothing's broken or bent back here. We get a much better look at our ShawnzeyRacing coilover slash, I guess this isn't a coilover, but our ShawnzeyRacing suspension in the back. Looking really good back here. I did notice that they welded a bolt to our oil pan drain plug, which is pretty crazy. Guess they didn't want to replace it. They'd rather just weld on a new nut. Again, this side of the engine, no different than the front, very caked in grime. Friendly reminder to replace your tires. These are pretty bald and cracking. This car with these bald tires, probably driving next to you every day. They're gonna crash into you, that sucks. Also, this car was sitting outside for however long, and it's full of cobwebs and spiders, and I hate spiders. That is all I really needed to see under there. Everything is good. The chassis, the lines, the suspension, ready for a new TTS engine. Which means we better start pulling stuff apart. We're gonna do it just like we did the red rolled over TTS. That is how I like pulling engines. I'm gonna take the entire front end of the car off, the bumper, the crash bar, the rad pack, and get everything out of the way and get all the way down to the engine. To continue on, we just gotta take out our rad pack. That's all that's left until we get to our engine and transmission, but we still have Freon in the AC system, so let's evacuate it. I went through this more in depth in the last episode, so if you wanna see that, go check out the last video. But the gist of it is I have a recovery tank, I have a recovery machine, I have manifold gauges, I hook them all up, I turn it on, and I wait until there is a vacuum in the AC system, and that's how I know it is empty. Now we can get back to taking off our coolers. Okay, making some pretty good progress here. Now I know when I pulled the engine and the transmission out of the red rolled over TTS, I left everything together, and that's because I wanted to go right into the black Audi TT with less assembly. I don't have to remember the wiring or the hoses or anything like that. The disassembly of the black Holy TT is going to be a little bit different because it's not going into another car. It's going to be either trash or parted out. So I'm going to disassemble all of this a lot more thoroughly rather than taking everything out all at once. So I think I'm going to just keep working my way down. If I can get the wiring out of the way, I'm going to do that. I would like to take the downpipe off. I'd like to take the turbo off. And then I need to take off the wiper arms, the cowls to get down to the ECU. I am currently turning the engine over with this little bolt. Well, honestly, the engine spins over pretty nicely. I did not expect that. The mystery goes on. I don't know what happened to this engine. I was gonna disassemble the short block, but it spins over nicely, so I doubt that the problem was down here. It makes sense that, you know, the head was broken and that's what the guy took off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for a lesson. I didn't go over this on the red rolled over TTS because I knew I'd be doing it again, and I figured those of you who have been sticking around, I'm gonna teach you something. If you take a look at this here ECU, it has 4 bolts holding the connectors on to the ECU, so you cannot just simply unplug them. And if you take a closer look at the bolts, they have no way to loosen them. They are completely smooth. I believe they're called breakaway bolts, or at least that's what I've been calling them. I'm gonna show you 2 ways to get these off. One is easier than the other, but it requires more space. The easy way that I have found is to use some sort of angle grinder, or I have a little tiny one here, and just grind a little slot into it so that you can use a flathead screwdriver to loosen it. So option 2 that I like is to use a reverse drill bit. So reverse drill bit, meaning instead of the clockwise flutes, they go counterclockwise. That way when you're drilling, instead of righty, you go lefty, and it has a chance to grab onto the bolt and just take it out rather than having to drill all the way through the head. Now from here we are pretty close to pulling this engine and transmission, or at least what's left of the engine. We just have to finish removing all of the wires above the transmission so it's easier to pull it up and out. And then it's 2 axles, 1 drive shaft, and a downpipe just to get it out of the way. And I believe we're ready to hook up the chains and get this puppy out of here. Here is our engine harness that we won't be needing. That being said, if I remember right, oh no, it's our chassis harness that has broken wires. It's okay, I have a whole other chassis harness. I can figure out what wire this is, crimp on the connector, which means that our engine harness is not missing anything and maybe worth some money. There we go. Catalytic converter number 2. I got 2 of these now. But that means both axles, drive shaft, and the downpipe, I think we pull the engine. So we just need to transfer the chains from the old engine to the new one, get the jack in place, and then unbolt the dog bone mount on the bottom, the transmission mount on top, and out she comes. We did it! Again, that one way easier the second time, who would have thought? The engine and the transmission are out. Let's take a look around. First off, it looks pretty good. Dirty, but good. A lot of leaves, a lot of dirt, a lot of grime. We will definitely give this engine bay a little bit of a clean before we go back together. Looking at the engine, there's a couple more things we can take off of this. One being obviously the transmission. That I think is still good. I'll probably sell it pretty cheap just because I don't know the condition. We have our turbo drain line, and I think that's honestly really it. Let me know in the comments if you want me to disassemble this and maybe like a short or a separate video just to see what's going on down there. I still don't know why the previous owner decided to take the head off this engine, and then why he decided to scrap it afterwards. Now I wish all we had to do was clean the engine bay before we can put the new engine and transmission in. Unfortunately, the TT and the TTS have different pinouts, but we'll talk about that more in depth in a little bit. For now, let's just clean up this engine bay so I'm not so dirty when I'm working around in here. And here are just a few before and afters of the engine bay. It is way better, don't get me wrong, but if I wanted to get this perfect, I'd either have to disassemble more of the engine bay or use a power washer, which I don't have water or a drain in the shop. So this is good enough for now. I am happy with this result. I think it's finally time that we talk about the plan for this car. We already know that I'm going to swap the TTS engine, the TTS transmission, the TTS brakes, and brake rotors onto this car. What was up in the air until this point was whether I was going to swap over all of the modules that had an immobilizer from the TTS to this one, or just disable the ECU immobilizer. Now, when I uploaded the very first episode of this series, a man named Malcolm at BM Auto Works got in contact with me. He said he can get me wiring diagrams. He said he can disable the immobilizer for me. He was talking to me about how he's done it before and how he did it. So I really appreciate your time, Malcolm. If you guys are in New Jersey, go show him some love. Thank you for disabling my immobilizer, and thank you for getting me these wiring diagrams, because these wiring diagrams are what we need to do next. Really quick, let me show you how I'm reading this wiring diagram and how I know what pin needs to go where. So if we take a look at the wiring diagram for the red TTS, pins 1, 2, and 4 are all brown. They all join together at this circle and go up to ground 6, 7, 2. And if we look at the black TT's wiring diagram, We have the same pins, 1, 2, and 4. They're the same color brown. They join together and they go to the same ground 6, 7, 2. So pins 1, 2, and 4 for the black TT and the red TTS are the same. However, if we look at pins 3, 5, and 6, they're all red-green wires. They all join together. And if we follow the wire, it goes over to number 3. We continue on to page number 2, and they go over and up to a 25 amp fuse. Whereas on the black TT, pins 3, 5, and 6 are still red and green. They still join together and they still go over and up to a 15 amp fuse. So we already have a difference between the black TT with a 15 amp fuse and the red TTS with a 25 amp fuse. The last example I'll give you is the engine coolant temperature sensor. On the red Audi TTS, pin 1 on the temp sensor is yellow and it goes up and over to pin number 12. Whereas on the black TT, the coolant temperature sensor is still pin number 1 is yellow, but it goes up and over to pin number 36. Back to the red TTS, the second wire on the coolant temperature sensor is brown, and that goes up, it goes over to pin number 53. Whereas on the black TT, the second wire for the coolant temp sensor is also brown, but it goes up and over to pin number 12. So when we rewire the black TT connector, pin number 12, the brown wire, needs to go down to pin number 53, and then pin number 36, our yellow wire for our coolant temp sensor, needs to go up to pin number 12. So we have looked at 8 different wires. 3 of them are the same, 3 of them have a different fuse, and then the other 2 are in the wrong location. I need to do that for every single wire in this plug here. But I wanted to teach you how to read that wiring diagram and how you could do this yourself in the future. So instead of doing it all on the wiring diagrams, I figured it'd be easier to just write down every pin for the black TT, write down every pin for the red TTS, the color of the wire, the pin, where it goes. That way I can just do this. Accelerator, pedal pin 5. On the black TT, it's a white and a red wire. On pin 11, on the red TTS, it's a white and red wire on pin 56. So I can just add this extra column here on where they go. So 1, 3, and 4 stay where they are. 3, 5, and 6 also stay where they are, but it's a 25 amp fuse. Pin 11 goes to 56. Pin 12 goes to 53. 19 to 25, 24 to 47, so on and so forth. This is the current state of the shop. Everything's just kind of laid out and I've been tracing wires, but I finally think I know where everything is, where it needs to go, and how I'm going to do it. So on top of rewiring basically every pin on the actual chassis harness ECU plug, this whole mess of wires down here basically needs to be rewired. So finally, after all of that explanation on the wiring, it's time to get started. Time to start cutting wires, time to start moving wires, time to start taping everything back together. While I'm fixing this wiring harness, I wanted to thank you for watching and ask you to subscribe. I think that would be really cool. At the same time, I wanted to thank my very first channel member. If you don't know what a channel member is, it is like it's like Patreon, but through YouTube. I've never really advertised it because I didn't really think anyone would do it, but I got my first channel member, Hardboiled777. Hardboiled777, congratulations on being the first channel member of the ShawnzeyRacing YouTube channel. You will forever be engraved in my mind, Hardboiled777. I will never forget you. If you want to see me make more content, and instead of posting every 2 or 3 weeks, post weekly, the best way you can do that is support the channel. Either subscribe, become a channel member, or if you're interested in a shirt or a sweater from ShawnzeyRacing.com, that also helps a ton. All right, there are our 3 plugs rewired. So now this cluster of wiring is correct. I have 1 plug left to run before we repin the chassis side of the ECU harness, and then we're done with wiring. This is our MAF sensor plug. It ends up going somewhere here. We have 4 wires total. These 3 I already sleeved. They go to the ECU. We have this wire here. Normally, this runs to a 10 amp fuse on the dashboard fuse panel. It's gonna be way easier for me to run a 10 amp fuse here than to run it inside through the dashboard to the fuse panel in there. So I grabbed a wire and a 10 amp fuse from the TTS harness. I'm gonna splice them together, run it to our fuse box, and then we should be on the last step. We are at the home stretch. I have the connector from the TTS. All we have to do is look at this sheet here to figure out what pin is gonna go from here to here. If I go from this connector to this one, I can just do them one at a time and I don't have to tape every duplicate wire and say what pin it's from. It's just a little more convenient. If you don't have two connectors, it's still very possible. Just mark your duplicate colors on what pin they came from, depin the whole thing. So again, finally, home stretch, let's get it done. That should be it. The black TT rewired to accept our red TTS engine. Woo! Also, I'm not saying that I got it 100% right. I might have missed something. There was a lot of wiring. Of course, I have wires everywhere. So before I can get this engine in, I need to do a nice little cleanup with a nice before and after. Okay, I think it's finally time that we actually TTS swap my Audi TT. Nothing left to do besides lift up the engine, slide it in, and bolt it down. This AC line is really in the way. I gotta go up and over it. Okay, I gotta take it back out. If I take off the charge pipe, or like the charge pipe in front of the engine, I'll have way more room. So let's do that. Okay, we did it! Ladies and gentlemen, we are off the hoist. We now have a TTS swapped TT. That's all there is to it. There's no more steps. We're done. Now the shirt that I'm wearing is true. We just swapped the heart of a TTS into a TT. This is a brand new shirt that I had made for this build. I try to have one shirt for every build. I, of course, make some more. For instance, the only pressure I feel is boost pressure. That's not necessarily for a certain build. I just like the design. ShawnzeyRacing.com, buy a shirt, buy a sweater. It supports me to keep doing stuff like this. I appreciate you. Now, back to this swapping part. Now, sure, we have a TTS swap TT, but it really doesn't do anything. It's a paperweight, so let's change that. The first thing that we need to do is get the engine running. If it runs, and it runs well, and it doesn't shut off after 2 seconds, that would mean, 1, we have enough of the wiring correct that the engine works. 2, the immobilizer delete is working. So it's time to get to work. The first thing we need to do is disassemble a little bit of the car. Turns out that the AC line is different on the TTS than it is on the TT. If I would have known that, I would have taken it off because it was definitely in the way of getting the engine in. So here's the two AC lines. One of them goes down, the TT goes down, the TTS goes up. Best to just swap it out in case, I don't know, charge piping might run into this. I'm not sure why, but this one's good off the TTS. Everything else lines up. We might as well use it. After that, we can replace the tensioner and the belt because that, for some reason, broke in the first episode. Then we can finish up the engine mount. It wasn't on the list, but also the coolant overflow. After that, we have 2 fuel lines and an evap line. I can hook up the shifter cable to make sure that we're in park. And now the fun part, all of the wiring. We have wiring for the starter, we have wiring for the transmission, we have wiring that goes from the engine to the ECU. This wiring looks so good. Hopefully it works, because, you know, it looks pretty factory. If you look, obviously it's electrical tape instead of fabric tape, and then there's a couple wires outside of the main trunk or the main loom, but it blends right in, looks really good. I'm happy with it. Again, hopefully it works. We are super close to starting this thing. Let's raise up the car, and we have an oil leak that we need to fix. The oil leak is coming from the turbo drain, so we just need to pop that off, replace the gasket. While I'm here, I'm going to replace the oil plug. I'm going to bolt on our downpipe for a couple reasons. One, I want our O2 sensors on, and two, I don't want the car to be crazy loud for our first startup. After that, it's just our dog bone. With the dog bone mount in, the drive shaft is touching the transmission or the transfer case. I don't think I'm going to put it in gear, but just in case, I'm going to put the drive shaft bolts in. They are just in hand tight, just in case stuff is spinning down here and they're not grinding metal on metal. I'll leave a giant note on the whiteboard reminding me that I do need to tighten those. Now there's one more bolt for the downpipe, but I can't get to it from down here, so let's get the car back down. The inlet for the turbo is right on top here, right open. I had a towel in it before, but obviously I don't want a towel in it when it's running. I don't want anything falling in this, so I'm gonna put the intake tube on. I'm not even gonna put the clamp on because I know I'm gonna be taking it off. Again, just don't want anything falling in the turbo. And lastly, we can fill our oil and reconnect our battery. Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time. I can't think of anything else to do besides try and start this car. There's so many things that could happen. One, the car could just not run in any way, shape, or form, probably a wiring issue. Two, the car could run for a couple seconds and then shut off. That would most likely be an immobilizer issue. Three, it could run poorly. I'd be okay with that, honestly. If it ran and didn't shut off, but just ran poorly, we could fix that. And then four, the one I'm hoping for, obviously, is it just runs with zero issue. This is one of my favorite parts of building cars, the first start. Let's do it. Oh, easy. Okay, well, it shut off. I don't think it's an immobilizer issue. Usually it shut off quicker than that. It ran pretty well for a while. Let's try it again. Not really a good sign so far. Let me investigate. I don't like this part. Okay, I might have found the issue. So it ran for a little bit and then shut off. Take a look at this. So if you notice, fuel gauge right there, it's on E. And this is also saying you're out of gas. So it's entirely possible that we just don't have any gas in it. Let's put some gas in it. I should have lowered the car first. So now I'm just gonna have to hold it like this. Okay, 5.7 gallons of 91 octane. Let's go check our dash and see if we were actually low on gas or if the gauge is broken or the sensor is broken. Okay, put the key in and hope that the gauge goes up. Oh, baby. Now let's just actually hope that that was the issue. Okay, let's go. All right, it's running rough, but it's not turning off. So we don't have an immobilizer issue. Enough of the wiring is correct for it to run poorly. But again, we don't have a MAF. We don't have all of our front sensors plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and call that a big, big win. Okay. Oh, baby, it's running poorly. Let me see if I have any codes. Maybe some codes will point out why it's running so rough. Hopefully, it's just the MAF sensor. You know what? I got a better idea. I'm gonna just guess that it's the MAF. Maybe that's a terrible guess, but I'm gonna put on our front rad pack that has our intercooler, get all those pipes connected, and put on our air box and plug in our MAF sensor. Okay, attempt number, I don't know anymore, but all of the intake and charge piping connected and tight, MAF sensor plugged in. This should tell us whether that was the issue or not. Well, it wasn't that. It's still running really rough. Okay, here's the deal. Today is Saturday, and this video, whether this engine is running smoothly or not, is going out tomorrow morning. So I only have 2 days to try and diagnose and fix this problem. I'm going to start with 3 easy items. One, our spark plugs. While it didn't misfire in the TTS, they are pretty gross, so I'm going to just upgrade to some NGK laser iridiums. Tighten those down, plug in the coil packs, and let's see if that fixes it. Wait, it's actually running way better. No way. There's no way it was just spark plugs. Look at this. It's better. I think it still has, it might have a little bit still. There's no way it was just spark plugs. I mean, these spark plugs are pretty gross. I'm not gonna lie, but it ran fine in the red TTS. Huh. There's no way that it was just spark plugs. I was so set in my head to be disappointed and that I was just kind of doing spark plugs as maintenance. And here we are, just running way better. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna do the other 2 items anyway. One, we have a fuel filter, pop off the old hoses, pop off the old fuel filter, new fuel filter in, hoses back on. And the third thing I wanna do is I wanna let this run for a little bit longer than it currently is. We need to fill the coolant. I'm going to both pressure check and vacuum check the cooling system, because anytime I only pressure test or I only vacuum check, there's still a leak. So I'm gonna check both, and then I'm going to vacuum fill our coolant. I think I found another huge reason why this car would be running poorly. I didn't have the vacuum line that goes to the brake booster plugged in. There's also a little vacuum line on the bottom that I didn't have plugged. So we had 2 vacuum leaks. I found that vacuum leak because I didn't have the 2 hoses that go to the HVAC plugged in. So now, back to pressure testing our cooling system. Bad news, I don't have the right adapter for the pressure tester, so I guess we're just vacuum checking. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're gonna have an amazing running TTS swap engine this go around. Let's go over why I think that's true. Fresh spark plugs, fresh fuel filter. We had a massive vacuum leak because I forgot the brake booster vacuum line. And the last thing that I forgot to mention until now, this car has been sitting since 2022. That's both according to the Carfax, and the cluster says 2022 when the car is on. So we had 3-year-old fuel in the fuel lines and the fuel pump at the bottom of the tank. So fresh 91 octane, fresh fuel filter, get all of that old gas out of the fuel lines. I think we're gonna have an amazing running TTS. Let's prove it. That is so smooth. It's perfect. We did it. We have a TTS swap Audi TT. It's running well. I'm at a loss for words. I'm just like I said, getting that first start, or at least, you know, the first start on the 7th attempt. I love it. I live for it. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes an Audi TTS swap into an Audi TT. That's all there is to it. We have so much more to come for this car. We have the big brakes off of the TTS, an aftermarket intake, a catless downpipe, plus an engine tune and a transmission tune. After all is said and done, we're shooting for a 50% horsepower gain over a stock 2013 Audi TT. And this list here should be everything that we need to do to get the car put back together, modified, and tuned, and back on the road. So first things first, downpipe. Taking off our intake first is doing double duty. We're gonna replace it with an aftermarket one, and we need to get it out of the way so we can take off our downpipe bolts as well. Once the top downpipe bolts and the O2 sensor are off, we can raise the car up and do the bottom.
Underneath the car we have another O2 sensor, a clamp at the end of the downpipe, and an exhaust hanger connected to the subframe. I'm also going to remove the dog bone mount and move the drive shaft over. With those two out of the way, it's way easier to get the last bolt and to remove our stock downpipe.
Third time taking one of these off, probably the last time. Should be, hopefully. Before we put the new downpipe on, we need this exhaust hanger. Ready to go. Aftermarket one is way slimmer without the catalytic converters, should be way easier to install. Gasket first, then the downpipe. I can reach the nuts on this aftermarket downpipe so much easier. I love it.
Once the downpipe is in its new home, we can reinstall the dog bone mount, the drive shaft, and the exhaust hanger.
Well, that's disappointing. We have run into our first dilemma with the downpipe. The bracket does not line up with the stock holes. I'm either drilling into this exhaust bracket or drilling into the stock exhaust manifold hanger. I think it makes more sense to keep the exhaust manifold hanger stock, no holes drilled. So I'm gonna hang it exactly where it needs to be, and then I'm gonna drill a hole into the CTS bracket. Okay, I spent like 30 minutes trying to drill through that. So instead I used one of these and just reamed out the hole, and it was so much faster. Remember this for next time. Obviously you need a hole to start with, but since I did, it was so much better. Now I'm just gonna use a fender washer so I have plenty of surface area. There we go. I thought I was gonna be halfway done with the list by now, but we're halfway done with the first item. All right, just kidding. This washer's too big. It runs into the bottom. It would rattle like crazy. Let me get a different washer. All right, got a little bit of a smaller one here. There we go. No more rattle.
Now that the catless downpipe is situated from underneath, we can install the back half of the exhaust. This came in two sections, and then it has a reducer to connect it to the stock cat back.
No contact anywhere when I shake the exhaust. Should be good to go for our new catless downpipe. O2 sensor's tight, plugged in. All of the clamps are tight. The clamps are not the low point anywhere. Exhaust hanger's on. I still need to tighten the drive shaft, but I forgot to put the car in neutral. So lower the car, put the car in neutral, raise the car back up, then we can tighten the drive shaft.
With the car back on the ground, we can tighten the last downpipe bolt, the O2 sensor, and the turbo heat shield.
It's gonna feel so good to cross these off, because my God, did that take so much longer than it should have. Next up is the two front axles. We have to remove the axle so we can pull the engine and the transmission all together. So we can bolt the axle back to the front diff and then reinstall the lower ball joint.
And then of course we just do the same exact thing on the other side.
Axle's complete. Let's go clean up our ECU wiring so we can put on our cowl and our wipers.
So far we haven't run into any issues with our TTS swap wiring, so I'm going to finish it up by wrapping it in electrical tape to protect it. There is also a little plastic cover that goes over the connector. Then we just plug in the ECU, pop it back into its home, and then I'll double check that the wire routing doesn't interfere with anything like the wiper arms. Now that the wiring is wrapped up, we can clean this nasty cowl, get it snapped and bolted in place along with the rubber gasket along the front of it. And same thing with the wiper arms. Clean them and install them.
Now I feel like we're making some progress here. The whole first column is done. Next up, let's get on our aftermarket intake.
The intake didn't come with instructions, but I'm sure we can figure it out. It's got 3 metal pieces with the holes already pre-drilled, so it's quick and easy to see how it bolts together. It does use the stock MAF sensor and tubing, so we'll need to grab that from the stock intake box. Then we can install the mount and the new intake into the engine bay. Along with the rubber gasket around the top to help seal it with the hood closed. Then we can bolt on the MAF sensor, install the coupler and the filter, and lastly the tube that goes to the turbo and the hose that goes to the recirculation valve.
And that is our intake installed. To be honest, I really don't think aftermarket intakes are gonna gain much over a stock intake box. On most cars, anyway. I like aftermarket intakes because I hear more turbo noises or more induction noises, and I like induction noises. Now let's start wrapping up the front of the car here. We have AC lines, our front radiator support, our radiator fans, our crash bar, and then I can wrap up all of the wiring in the front except for like the bumper and the headlights. And that is the radiator support, AC lines, radiator fans, crash bar, and the front wiring. Man, we're crushing this list right now. Next up, bumper, headlights, wheel liner, let's go. This one is pretty self-explanatory. We just have like 4 bolts holding it to each fender and 4 bolts holding it to the front core support. Don't worry, these headlights, we're gonna restore them next episode. This whole car gonna get a huge overhaul on the aesthetics department next video. This video, modifications. I didn't write it down, but then there's 2 little plastic pieces that go on each side of the front bumper. And then my most favorite thing to do on any car, wheel liners. You gotta shove them up in there. You gotta line up about 50 different screw holes, screw them all in, nice and easy. Okay, the second column, bumper, headlights, wheel liners, done. That brings us over to the last 2 items. These 4, all related to brakes. The last one, I just gotta plug in and tune the car. Hopefully that's easy. I would hope that's easy. Gonna be honest, painting the brakes, we're not gonna do it in this video. I am going to paint the brakes because they're pretty ugly, but not in this video. I might regret that. The next video is all about that aesthetic before and after. That makes sense to do next video. So we just got to get the rear brakes off of the rear subframe from the TTS, and then we can install them and bleed them. It's going to be a pain in the butt to take these calipers off with the upper control arm off. So I'm going to do a little bit more disassembly than I thought and take the shock, the spring, and the upper control arm off just to give me a little bit more room. Gee whiz, that was the most stuck caliper I've had to take off. It's like it's the twist style, so you can't really just collapse it. So I don't know the best way to take these off.
Now just one more time on the other side.
Whew, that side came off a lot easier. Okay, brakes have been retrieved, but they're really dirty. Every time I touch them, my hands turn black. So I'm gonna give them a quick wash. So here are some lovely before and afters. Okay, now that they are clean, not perfect, not good looking, but clean, let's start taking off the old calipers one at a time and putting the new ones on. Take it both off together, I guess. Good news, TTS brake caliper bracket, same as the TT. We don't have to go any farther than this. Fun fact, even though the TTS brake rotors are bigger, the heat shield is the same size. Alright, calipers on and anti-seized. Brake caliper is installed and anti-squeaked or lubricated. And then the hose is tight with all the little push clamps that I hate. Actually, before we continue, here is the difference between the brake caliper sizes. Pretty crazy. We just got done with the front right. Let's go do the front left. Caliper number 2, complete.
On to the back calipers. These should be easy. I just got done doing this, but we'll find out.
To be honest, I don't think that these calipers are different between the TTS and the TT in the rear, but the rotors definitely are. The TTS rotors are bigger, and then the biggest benefit is that the TTS calipers have 35,000 miles, while the TT calipers have 97,000. Calipers tight, brake lines are tight, e-brake cable installed. Last caliper and rotor, let's get it done. This is a screw type caliper, meaning I can't just compress this by squeezing it with my hands or a C-clamp or any other tool. There's a special tool to collapse this caliper. There's 2 little notches for these 2 little pins. Slide it all together, get the clamp tight, and then you just twist it one way or the other, and then it's collapsed. And now that it's collapsed, it'll fit. Nice and easy. Brake lines tight, e-brakes tight, calipers tight. That should be all 4 calipers installed. We are getting so close. Brakes installed. Oh, you know, I didn't even write that. drive. Bleed it, tune it, drive it. We do have a timeline here. It's winter time in the Midwest, which means it gets dark. The weather app says that the sunset is at 4:56 p.m. and it is currently 3:30. So we have an hour and a half to drive the car before it's dark. So as long as bleeding the brakes doesn't take a long time and tuning doesn't take a long time, that should be possible. We are going to be pressure bleeding this, but I am still going to fill it to the full line before we start. All right, reservoir is full. Now all we have to do is hook up the pressure bleeder, pressurize the system, and then go to the farthest corner first, open the bleed nipple, wait for fluid to come out with zero air, close the bleed nipple, and then we work our way from the farthest to the closest. So it'll be the back right, then the back left, then the front right, then the front left. And that's how easy it is when you have a power brake bleeder. Oh boy, instead of crossing this off, I'm just gonna start erasing. We're done with bleeding, install. We didn't paint, gonna paint next time. Get the brakes, we did that. Wheel liners, headlights, bumper, front wiring, crash bar, radiator fans, AC lines, radiator support, intake, wipers, cowl, ECU wiring, turbo heat shield, axles, drive shaft, downpipe. Tune it, drive it. This should technically be really easy. I plug this into the car, and then I tune the engine and transmission. Technically, should be that easy. Come on, just come in here with me.
2013 Audi TT. Well, hopefully it knows that the engine is a TTS, because that's going to be a problem if it doesn't. Okay, it does have the 2.0 TTS Stage 2 tune that I purchased. 91 octane. We are flashing. It sees that it's a 2013 Audi TT. It sees that it's a 2.0 TTS.
All right, we are still flashing. And I got a charger on. I forgot to do that first. It is taking quite a while to do the programming, so I figured better put that charger on. Okay, says it worked out. 2013 Audi TT 2.0 TTS Stage 2. Flash files. We got one more though. We have to flash our transmission. We also have a Stage 2 transmission tune. Alright, officially our 2013 Audi TT has a TTS engine with a Stage 2 engine tune and a Stage 2 transmission tune. And that is tunes complete. We are almost ready to drive this car. I just need to tie down the battery, because right now it's just sitting there. I need to close the hatch, I need to close the hood, and then there's 4 wheels that need to be bolted on. This Audi TT has not been on its own 4 wheels with a running and driving engine and transmission for more than 3 years. So finally, let's start this thing up, see if it sounds better, see if it runs better. You know, I like it. I like it. So I can only rev it to 4,000 RPM in park or neutral. So we'll have to see how it sounds on the road when we can actually rev it out to, I think 7,000 is the rev limiter. Idled perfectly, revved perfectly, happy camper. Now, we have to go from a high point. Well, I have to go from a high point to a low point. I have to be honest with you guys. We do not get to drive the Audi. Well, I don't. Not right now. We get to. Just, it's pretty dark out. By the time I set up the GoPro and all of the filming equipment to go drive it, it'll be dark. So even though I just did all of that work, I don't get to drive it quite yet. But that is a me problem, not a you problem, because YouTube magic, it's gonna be the next day and we're gonna go for our first drive. I'll be right back.
One eternity later.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the next day and it's time for our first drive. The glass on this car was absolutely filthy. I could barely see through it. So I went ahead and cleaned those all up to prepare for a nice, safe outing. I'm also wearing a very appropriate shirt for our first drive. Sometimes you don't go for first drives, you go for first breakdowns, and I'm repping that very well. You can get this design and many more like it on t-shirts or sweaters at ShawnzeyRacing.com. Any money you spend at ShawnzeyRacing.com goes straight to the projects on the YouTube channel. I deeply appreciate any of you who have bought t-shirts and sweaters. It helps me a lot. Now, let's get this car on the road.
I can't control myself. Zero self-control. I made it barely a mile. Oh, as soon as I saw the highway leaving town, I sent it. Let's do it again. Okay, rotors are warped. I am not a big fan of four bangers. To me, hard to make them sound good. That sounded good. We had some cackles on the upshifts. Some pops and bangs when we're shifting. A pleasure. This is my first dual clutch transmission. Shifted like butter. I love it. Not overheating after a little bit of fun. All right, we're coming up. That wasn't in sport mode. Let's throw this thing in sport mode. And just a little bit. I have no self-control. All right. Do we have launch control? We do. Oh, baby. Oh, that's fun. I like that. That's fun. Launched good. Sounded good. I'm happy, guys. Very, very successful first drive. I could not be happier. Are you kidding me? This thing sounds good. It's fast. It's fun. This is awesome. This is going to be an amazing daily driver. I just wish it had 4 doors and a back seat so I could haul my kid around in it. I don't think Cam's gonna fit back there, guys. Maybe. I hope so.
It's time we start the cosmetic revival of our Audi TT. There is so much work that needs to be done. There's a hole in the quarter panel, the door is gouged, the headlights are filthy, any paint on top of the car is disgusting and needs to be buffed, the paint underneath the wing is chipping off, the paint on the brakes is chipping off, we're missing a front grille, one of the front fog lights is broken. Like I said, there's a lot of work to do. So let's start by buffing this entire car and seeing what body panels are savable and which ones are going to need paint. I say we start with the hood. I'm gonna start completely over with this paint. I've tried a lot of products to get this hood looking good. I obviously washed it. I used glass cleaner, Goo Gone, water spot remover, just obviously normal, like spray on wax. I've tried a Claim It. None of it seemed to help in any way, shape, or form, but here we are going for an attempt number 2. Okay, so this is after just wiping it, clay bar, water spot remover. It does absolutely nothing. Like, I'll peel the tape back. Zero change. Still have no clue what this is. I think it's water spots, but I think it's etched into the clear. So if we can't figure out how to get this off, I'm gonna have to paint the entire car. And honestly, I'm not really looking forward to that, because painting is not my expertise. I can do it. I painted the Supra. That looks okay. It's a little dirty right now. It's really dirty. It's dusty, but the paint turned out okay. I just wasn't really expecting to have to paint this entire car. So wiping it, clay bar, water spot remover, not doing the trick. Let's just try buffing it. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form a professional detailer, but I'm also in no way, shape, or form qualified to do any of this. I just watch YouTube videos just like you guys, and then I figure it out along the way. So if I'm doing something wrong here, do let me know in the comments. I'm really okay with constructive criticism. I'm not gonna be mad about it. Couple passes with the hardest cutting compound and hardest cutting pad I have. It's better. Definitely way better. Now the problem is with the hood, at least, we have this really ugly chipped paint. Now I could not paint the hood and just fill it in and buff that, but it's like, if I'm already gonna be in a paint booth and I'm already gonna have everything set up, probably just makes the most sense to paint the hood. We need to do the same 3 steps that we did to the hood to the quarter panel. We need to wipe it off, so we're starting with a somewhat clean surface, and then we're gonna clay bar it, or in my case, claim it, and then buff. We're going to buff and buff and buff some more. One pass on the quarter panel and it looks good. I didn't do it before, but let's just look at the other quarter panel and we can obviously see how bad it was and how good it is now. Old quarter panel, real bad. New quarter panel, a lot better. Now let's do the same thing on the wing and see how that looks. I'm actually curious at this point. Let's go ahead and hit it with a polish and then another polish, a cutting polish, finishing polish, 2 different pads. Let's see how nice we can make this wing look, because honestly, if it doesn't turn out good, maybe I just paint the whole car at this point. But now here's what it looks like before and after the final polishing steps. Not bad is what I gotta say about that. All right, it is the next day. You might notice that the video looks a little different. We have way more color than the previous videos, and then what you just saw before and what you see now, 2 different cameras. I want you guys to tell me which one you think is better. Number 1 is what we were using just a little bit ago, and this is number 2. So watch the video, compare what you just saw to what you see now. Let me know which one you like more, and I'll use that going forward on future videos. Next up, what I want to do is show you my thought process, my technique, how I buff cars. Now, I'm not a professional, so what I want you to do is watch how I do it. Let me explain it, but before you just mimic what I do, read the comments. Hopefully, people will give their opinion on what I did good and what I did bad. So what I like to do is prime my pad. Now, I probably use a lot of product. I don't know if I need this much. I don't know if it's too much. I don't know if there's such a thing as too much product on your pad when you're buffing. But I like to put a nice bit of product on my pad, spread it around with my fingers, and then just wipe off my fingers after. Now I know that my pad has product everywhere it needs to be, and I'm not gonna just be dry buffing the car in a spot. Then when it's actually time to buff the car, I put 4 small or medium-sized dots on the pad, and then I dab that around in the spot that I'm going to be buffing. Now, the product that I'm using, Chemical Guys, recommends to work in a 2 foot by 2 foot area. I go a little bit bigger than that. Probably best to follow the recommendations of the product you're using. Once I have the product dabbed around, I like to go on the lowest setting and just spread it out nice and even. In my case, the product also recommends being on setting number 5, which on this machine says 35. I don't know if that's 3,500 RPM or 350. I'm really not sure. I'm guessing it's 3,500 RPM. Your product might be different. People in the comments might have different opinions. That's just what I'm doing. Now I like to go left to right on the entire area and then up and down on the entire area. Once the product has been spread out evenly, there's no longer any white product. It's all kind of smeared out nice and clear. I like to go back down to the lowest setting and just do one really light pass. And then you simply buff off the product or just wipe it off with a microfiber towel, and you are done with your first pass. For me, with how bad this paint is, I need 2 passes with my most aggressive pad, and then I follow it up with steps 3 and 4. I'm skipping step 2, at least in the Chemical Guys product. And in my case, it makes it so that my roof doesn't look like what you see here, and it looks like this instead. Again, not perfect, but much, much better. And that is how I buff cars. Now, this is only like my 2nd time buffing a car, so I'm sure I can do something better. That is why I love having you guys in the comments telling me how I can improve, because I always want to improve. I've been going down a very bad rabbit hole with this car. I feel like most car people will know the while you're in there rabbit hole. While you're in there is you have to do thing number 1, but while you're in there, it makes a lot of sense to do thing 2, 3, and 4. All I have to do to make this car roadworthy again is fill the hole in the quarter panel and paint it. And the while I'm in there rabbit hole I was going down was I'm gonna buff the car and figure out what other body panels I should paint. It turns out that my 2013 car with 100,000 miles, it has paint chips everywhere. So instead of just painting the quarter panel and door, the while I'm in there rabbit hole turned into, wow, I should probably just paint the entire car. I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna bring it all the way back. Fill the hole in the quarter panel, paint the quarter panel, paint the door. It is more important to keep your car on the road and enjoy it than go down a while you're in there rabbit hole. I drove this car once, and then it's been sitting here waiting for me to fix the hole and paint it so I can enjoy it as my daily driver. So that is exactly what we are going to do. Now that that is out of the way, I made a list of things that we have to do. This is the most time-consuming part right here. We have to fill the hole, get ready for paint, and paint it. After that, we can tackle these things one at a time. The next thing that I need to do, personally, is set up my welder to weld aluminum and practice. I've never welded aluminum before, and I'm gonna learn how to do it on a quarter panel, I guess. So, turns out I don't have the right wire for my spool gun. I only have flux core wire, which don't know why I even have that for the spool gun. Too late for me to go get it right now. I'll get it tomorrow. Let's switch gears and fix the giant dent in this door. I found the funniest way to show you this dent. It's with my fingers. Here's the left side door. You can see it's not some weird body line that's making it warp like this, but the right side door, giant dent. I have no clue how I'm gonna get this dent out. My current plan, take the door panel off and kind of give it a good old smack on the inside. Like I said before, I'm not a professional body guy. That is honestly the best plan I got so far. Let's see how it goes.
Oh.
Oh, easy. Okay, I'm actually surprised that worked. Okay, so we got that giant dent out. Let's go ahead and put our door panel back together, and then we can cross off door dent from our to-do list. There's not even a speaker here. They got a fake speaker grill here. No speaker. Dent is fixed, door panel is back on. Let's go cross off door dent from our list. Next up, there's a couple things in the back of the car that we need to fix. One of them, the wing, the paint is chipping and it's very, very ugly. The second one, our center brake light doesn't work. So let's open up our hatch and dig in. We need to remove our center brake light and our wing next. Well, that didn't help me. There's a clip right here holding the taillight in. Kind of a pain to get to. I was hoping there'd be an access hole here underneath this latch, but there ain't. Well, good thing it's already broken. Let's go ahead and put our latch back on since that gained us nothing. With the third brake light and the wing removed, we're actually ready to go back to our welding practice. My main priority is still fixing our quarter panel, and now that I have the correct welding wire, let's go back to that. I bought both ER4043 and ER5356 just because I didn't really know which one was going to be better in my situation. So we'll probably try both and just see what works better. All right, welding gun is all set up. The machine says 6 to 8 amps and 2 to 3.5 volts for 5356. So for 43, I'm gonna start a little bit lower at 5 and 2. Now I cut off a lot extra from the red rolled over TTS. We technically only need this bottom section here. I cut off all of this top half for practice. So I'm gonna cut the top section off, cut it into strips, sand off the paint, and then just have a little bit of welding practice. Now that I'm somewhat confident I can weld 2 pieces of aluminum together, it's time to work on the car again. We need to get this thing ready for surgery. We're going to be cutting, sanding, grinding, and welding on this thing. It needs to be ready for that. Let's talk about the painting because that is what we are prepping for. We only need to paint this area down here because that's where we're going to be cutting and welding and grinding and sanding and body filler. All of that is going to happen down here. That is the only place that is not going to have paint. However, even though we're only going to be painting down here, we need to blend it in with the rest of the car. Now you do the blending with the clear coat. So we'll only paint in this area down here, but we have to clear coat the entire door and we have to clear coat the entire quarter panel. The quarter panel comes all the way back here to the tail light and all the way up here to the A-pillar. So we have a lot of things to either tape up and mask or remove. I say we only remove the mirror and the door handle, and then we'll mask off everything around the quarter panel. To take off the door handle, there's a little plastic cover on the inside. And then you just loosen this Torx all the way and then push it in. That should let us pull our lock out and then pull our handle out. So that was pretty easy. For the mirror, we're gonna pop out the glass. Then we need to loosen up the motor bolts so we can access the wiring. Twist and pull it off.
There we go.
Now the wiring stays with the door, so we got to unplug the motor and the indicator. And then just 3 more T30 Torques. Next up, we need to outline everything that's not going to get paint and tape. But you don't want to just stick the tape over the top. You want to slide it into the crevice. This taillight is a really easy example. There's enough of a body gap that it just slides right in, you tape it down, and you're ready to move on. The rubber gasket around the door and window is a little bit tougher of an example. It's a lot harder to slide the tape in. What I like to do is try to get a pick behind the gasket, pull it back, then you can slide the tape in nice and easily. And then to give yourself even more room for sanding or painting, you can use the tape to keep tension on the rubber gasket to keep it folded away. And definitely just stick with smaller pieces of tape to work your way around. At least for me, that's easier. And now we have the area that we need to paint outlined in masking tape. That was the time-consuming part of masking, because next up all we have to do is drape the rest of the car in this. And we already have a huge blue area that we can stick this tape to. It doesn't have to be precise. We're doing this before we work on the body for a couple reasons. One, sparks from cutting or grinding or welding can ruin glass, so I definitely want to cover the glass. The second reason is we just spent a bunch of time cleaning this car, and we don't want to undo that with dust or metal shards or overspray when we spray paint. And just like that, the entire car is covered and protected. We don't have to worry about this car getting dirty or anything. These two, though, probably gonna get dirty. I'm gonna sand cut on this car. Those cars are gonna get dirty. I'm gonna have to wash those just because I'm working on this one. Now, I didn't really need to cover the glass. You can usually just use a razor blade and scrape the windows, but since I'm going to be painting all around it, I figured it'd be easier to just tape it up and peel the tape off rather than scrape it. I feel like I have done so much work on this car, and to not have anything but door dent crossed off of the list, it sucks. I just got to keep in my mind that as soon as we finish these 3, the rest is going to go quick. On that note, I guess there's nothing left for me to do except for cut a hole in my quarter panel. Hey guys, there's a bigger hole in the quarter panel. I forgot to push record. I'm really sorry. That was kind of like an exciting part. I cut a hole. Anyway, I'm gonna have to work through the depression that I just caused myself by forgetting to push record. And what we need to do next, before we start fitting the next panel that we're gonna weld in, is we gotta try to get these 2 dents out. It's gonna be way easier to get this dent and this dent out while there's a giant hole that I can reach back here and kind of pry and straighten out this body line. Like everything else in this video, I have no clue how I'm gonna do that. I'm kind of just winging this entire thing here. All right, for using a framing hammer, that went pretty well.
Now we just need a template of the hole we just cut into the quarter panel. We need to know the size and the shape of the hole, and also where the hole is in the quarter panel so we can cut in the same exact spot on the red rolled over TTS's quarter panel. So I know if I line up my 3 edges, this is where the patch panel is.
Before we cut out our patch panel, I need to know how much extra to leave on the patch panel so that when I use the crimper, we have our overlap and then the panel sits flush.
So here is that tool that I've been talking about. It's a hole punch right here. The reason why you would punch this hole is if you're plug welding. So if you had 2 panels and you were overlapping them, instead of welding the seam, you could fill this hole called a plug weld. We're gonna be using the other side, which is the crimper. So you can see when I crimp that edge, it creates that little zigzag. We'll have our overlap that we can weld with a lot less risk of burning through, and we're still sitting flush. So that is the plan. Next up, we need to transfer our tape template to our panel, mark our hole, and then we need to make sure that we leave this much extra when we cut for our crimper. I actually just double checked that placement with measurements, and it's actually dead on. Crazy. I did not think it was gonna be dead on. So now that we know that this is good, we can get our rough outline in here. Now let's see if that line holds up. All right, bye-bye template. There is our position we need. Now we can see that we need to add about 0.4 inches for our crimp. And now we can go around and just add our 0.4 that we need. And now I simply just mark the inside line with an X as a reminder to myself that I do not cut on the inside line, I cut on the outside line. Now, nothing left to do but cut out our patch panel. I'm getting pretty excited here. We're getting close. Now, I am actually going to cut on the inside of the line. Now, no one told me to do this. This is kind of just my logic here. But if I cut right on that line and then crimp it, it might not fit perfectly, only because there's no way that I can match my cut line perfectly. I didn't cut in a perfect straight line. That's reason number one. Reason number two is I want the smallest, tiniest little gap for me to fill with weld, because if they butt perfectly up together and I weld on top of that, it's just a lot more weld that I need to grind down. So I'm hoping that there's the tiniest little gap for me to weld inside of. Next up, we need to go ahead, clean up the edges of all of the, metal shards, but also the paint. We're not gonna be grinding off the back because it already has the factory coating. We're not gonna do anything to the back yet, that is. We will spray cavity wax once this is welded in. The cavity wax comes in, you got a can with a little straw, you can spray it in there and get everything on the back of this covered in wax, but it's aluminum, so not rust, corrosion. The front, however, aluminum needs to be very, very clean to weld. So we need to get all of the burrs off and all the way down to bare aluminum. And that is exactly the reason why we will not be spraying like a weld through primer on the front, because with my skills at least, it's already hard enough for me to weld aluminum. I'm not gonna make it any harder with weld through primer. And there is our super clean patch panel with all of the nice factory primer on the back. I did end up cleaning the back edges too, so it's not sharp. Like I said, I'll cavity wax the back of this when we're done. We're still not ready to weld because we need to prep the body panel, but also I forgot we need to disconnect our battery. I would not recommend welding on a car with your battery connected. You don't want to fry anything. When you're welding, that is a lot of electricity, a lot of current going through the chassis of the car. It's best to try to keep it in the car and not in the battery or your electrical system. Normally, disconnecting a battery, super easy. However, I covered the whole car in plastic, so we just got to move some of the plastic out of the way so we can disconnect our battery. Two more things that we need to do to our patch panel, and then it is ready. One, self-tapper screw right in the middle, something for me to grab onto. Number two is actually crimp our edge. Oh, I'm crimping the wrong way. I gotta flip it over and crimp this way. And that is our patch panel crimped all the way around. You can see this inside line. That is where we're crimped. I can already tell you I cut way too much off on all four sides. I definitely should have just cut directly on the line that I marked. And I guess let me go show you why. All right, now I mentioned this already, but the reason why we have this screw is because this isn't magnetic, but the screw will be. I mentioned that I cut way too much off, and as you can see, we do have overlap on each side, just not as much as I wanted. Like if I hold, I guess let me slide this in here. You can see it fits and everything's covered, but this gap is way, way bigger than I wanted it to be. I wanted a little bit of a gap, not that much. It'll work. we will definitely make it work. Mostly because we don't have another option. That's the only quarter panel piece we got. Now to help the panel sit flush, I do need to deburr this. Okay, after deburring the inside and just kind of making the metal fit nicely together, I had to do a little bending here, a little bending down here, and when I crimped the actual patch panel, it kind of straightened it out a little bit, so I had to re-bend our patch panel. But as you can see, I mean, we fit where we are, where we need to be. So I think our patch panel is ready. All we need to do is actually prep our quarter panel so it's ready to be welded to. So we just need to sand the paint off around the edge. Now the last thing we need is somewhere for our ground clamp to go. You want the ground clamp as close to where you are welding as possible. Normally, that would be literally right next to where you're welding, but I can't clamp here, and it's aluminum, so I can't, like, they make magnets. So instead of a clamp, it would be a magnet that would make contact, you know, somewhere close. I can't use a magnet because it's aluminum. I can't clamp here because, well, there's no edge. So I think the next best bet is I'm gonna have to grind away some paint and use our ground clamp right here. And I mean, obviously we're already painting the quarter panel, so I'll just have to paint that as well. Okay, well, I think there's nothing left to do besides actually weld our patch panel. Battery's disconnected, we have a spot for our ground. I'm a little nervous, hence why I'm not super enthusiastic. I am excited, just a little nervous. If I mess this up, I don't get a second chance. There's no second quarter panel waiting for me, so we might as well get started. I will tell you what I know, or what I think I know about welding this patch panel. So we're gonna slide the piece behind. We have a vice grip and a self-tapper screw, and that is my only way of holding this piece in place. Now, it's pretty hard to not warp this thin of metal when you're welding, but the best chance you have of not warping it is taking your time and not overheating the metal, and don't weld all in one line. Don't weld in the same spot and follow it all the way around. You want to spread it out. So I'm going to weld in the bottom left corner, and then I'm going to weld in the top right corner, and then I'm going to go corner to corner, go in the middle. I'm just going to spread out the heat as much as I can. This is not going to be pretty. I'm not a fantastic welder, but that's okay. I think the saying goes, a grinder in paint makes me the welder I ain't. Basically saying it doesn't matter how bad my welds are, because we're going to grind them smooth, cover them with body filler and paint, and nobody will know the difference. Okay, not too bad. I'm a little happier now that we have, you know, the main piece welded in here. It's not pretty. Don't get me wrong. I don't claim these welds to be pretty, but there's no more hole in our quarter. Oh, well, there's a hole right here, actually. We'll have to take that out. We got to fill this hole still, actually. Let me take this out quick. All right, let me weld that hole shut quick. All right, now with that self-tapper out and the hole filled, there's no more hole in our quarter panel. Pretty happy with how that went. First time welding aluminum, first time welding in a patch panel, A+ for effort. Next up, we got to grind all of this metal smooth. We obviously don't want a really bumpy quarter panel. Sure, there's no hole anymore, but bumps don't look much better. So we got to grind all of our welds smooth now. Let's see how that goes. And after grinding, I'd say we're okay. We're okay. The major thing that sucks right now is you can see we lost, well, two things. One, you can see I accidentally ground through the tape, so we're gonna have to paint our side skirt. Not a big deal, it's, you know, pretty small area. If anything, I'll end up just painting this whole area here and then clear coat the entire body panels. What I'm worried about more, you can see our body line is way off. Now I know this body line didn't line up perfectly before. I bent it back to the best that I could, but it definitely warped back to where it was. So in order for this to look good, we have to reform this body line with body filler. Now, if this was steel, I have a little spot weld slide hammer. We could slot we could pull this back out. But this is aluminum. I have no clue how I would do that with aluminum. They probably make aluminum spot weld slide hammer things. I don't have one.
Normally you want to do body filler over like a urethane primer. I don't have a urethane primer, so we're gonna go body filler directly to metal. Okay, I believe we are done with the cutting, the grinding, and the welding.
Which means we can cross off quarter panel hole.
Now we're on to the paint prep.
First things first, I'm gonna need more room to work. So the welder and the grinder needs to go, and I don't really wanna sit on all of this metal dust.
So a nice little before and after.
With our area clean, we are ready to start body filler. We have 3 levels of body filler that we're gonna be using. The first one is the one that we can lay on the thickest. It's a fiberglass reinforced body filler.
So let's get that first thicker layer of fiberglass reinforced body filler on and see how it looks. First, clean the area with wax and grease remover.
Then we can get our body filler ready. You can see I use a screwdriver to stir this up. When I opened the lid, there was a film or a liquid layer on top, so I guess some oil had separated from the product. The instructions say for a 4-inch circle of putty, you need 1 line across of hardener. So we're gonna start with that amount first. I don't think I will need much more than that. A nice little line of hardener across the top. And then you kind of knead it like dough to mix it together. Once it's a uniform color like this, you're ready to apply it. It's gonna harden up quick, so you gotta be fast. When you're semi-happy with what you got, try to clean up any body lines so you don't have to sand them off later.
And I just used the wax and grease remover to clean our putty knife.
And then the nice thing about this is I don't have to clean a board. It's just a sheet of paper on top. Everything's easier with 2 hands. I don't have 2 hands right now, but boom! Clean sheet for the next one. You throw away this paper. And our fiberglass reinforced body filler has dried. We are ready for some sanding.
I don't have anything fancy, just a random orbit sander. I do have an interference pad on the bottom. So when I put pressure on it, it conforms to the shape of the body rather than putting a high amount of pressure on one spot. But I'm gonna go ahead and hit all of this with 80 grit just to smooth it out to get ready for our next coat of body filler. So just a quick little sanding to get everything nice and smooth and ready for another layer. So fiberglass reinforced body filler was step number 1. Now just I guess a normal body filler, step number 2. Our second coat of body filler is going to hit the entire panel. We need to fill the dent in the door. We need to fill all the nooks and crannies from my welding, as well as try to rebuild the body line that runs across the bottom. 20 minutes later, ready for more sanding. Now I'm just gonna keep doing that over and over again until I'm happy with the result.
Okay, creating quite the mess. I should probably wear a mask, but I'm not.
Here is where we are so far. Looking pretty smooth. Here, it looks like we have a high spot, and it looks like a low spot, a low spot, a low spot. But instead of guessing, how about we just find out with some guide coat? So all we're gonna do is apply a light layer of this guide coat.
And now with a block sander, I'm just gonna hit it with some cross hatching. So I'm gonna go this way, and then I'm gonna come this way in an X pattern or a cross hatch pattern.
And this is gonna show us exactly where our high spots and our low spots are. So if you see bare metal, that is a high spot. We're gonna have to hammer that down. However, anywhere there's black is a low spot. So we have a low spot here, we have a low spot here, and then it's pretty faint, but there is a low spot still by the door. But we don't wanna apply more body filler with the guide coat on. So I'm just gonna use some Scotch-Brite to knock off the guide coat and apply more body filler.
Okay, a little bit of an update. One, it's Friday. That means tomorrow is Saturday. The reason why that is important is because for this car to have any sort of good timeline for this video, we need to paint tomorrow. Getting the shop ready for the paint booth, setting up the paint booth, getting the car ready for paint, painting the car, all of that, it just kind of takes an entire Saturday. Painting itself is only like 2 or 3 hours, but everything else that comes with it, it's a whole day thing. That means this door, this side skirt, the quarter panel all up there. Oh, and this needs to be ready for paint tonight or pretty early tomorrow morning. What I'm saying is we are making progress, but to get this thing ready for paint tonight, I have a lot of work to do. So I'll check back in with another update as I continue.
But here's what we have so far.
Okay, I did another 2 coats from what you last saw, and I'm happy with the second step of body filler.
The third and last step of body filler is a glaze coat.
It's the same thing as the other body fillers, so I'm gonna save you the trouble. I'll be right back when I am done with our glaze coat. Oh, baby, I am so proud to announce our body filler is done.
Look at this, this looks good. You can see it's faded between the different, the levels. Obviously, I sanded a lot more here than everywhere else, but it feels smooth. We have some sort of body line down here, some sort. It's not perfect. The door feels amazing. The transition is tight between the body panels. It probably took me a lot longer and a lot more layers of body filler to get it right than somebody else, but we got it done. The next step, we're gonna get it even smoother because it's time for filler primer. Let me tell you about filler primer. It's both a primer, who would have thought, and filler. The filler part, meaning you can get that last perfect layer of smoothness for your paint job. So we're gonna do a couple light coats so that the primer is sticking well, and then a couple heavy coats for us to sand on. Okay, Saturday, it is paint day, or at least it better be if I want any chance of getting this video out to you guys on time. 8:30 in the morning, didn't get out quite as early as I wanted to, but we have a lot of work to do, so we're gonna get right to work. We need to start sanding our filler primer. I didn't mention before what grit sandpaper I've been using, but let's go through it quickly while I sand this filler primer. The final sandpaper we want to use for when we're ready for paint is 600 grit. But when we first started, we were all the way down at 40. We used 40 grit sandpaper to get down to bare metal. We didn't care how coarse it was, we just wanted to get to bare metal as fast as possible so we could work. From there, when I put on the fiberglass reinforced body filler, I could have stayed with 40. Instead, I bumped up to 60. I don't think it really matters at that point. After that, for the normal body filler, I bumped up to 120. And then when I was really close to the shape I wanted, I bumped up to 240. I stayed at 240 for the glaze putty as well. So this is the first time that I am finally bumping up to 320 grit. Once we're done sanding our work area, we have to sand the entire quarter panel and the entire door with 320 grit as well. And then we'll finish it off with a 600 grit later. Okay, I knew that this was gonna be the result. I missed too many pinholes. I forgot about this, so I sanded through a lot of the filler primer. That's okay, we need to fill these spots with glaze, sand them, and then do our coats of filler primer again. Okay, 4 coats of primer done. Also, the garage is completely empty and clean. Cam and the wife are here to help set up the paint booth. The primer is definitely dry, so that's ready to be sanded, but while I have some help, it's probably better to set up the paint booth. This is an inflatable paint booth by Vivor. It's got 2 fans. One is keeping the paint booth up, the other one is cycling air throughout. We also have a trunk and an exterior fan sucking the paint fumes out and pumping them outside of the garage. I'll make sure everything is masked off, including the wheels, once we push it into the paint booth. For now, we need to actually sand our body panels. So enough talking, let's get sanding. We have to sand basically this entire side of the car except for the fender. I'm only gonna sand the filler primer with 600 grit, but I'm gonna sand the door of the side skirt and the quarter panel with 320, and then follow it up with 600. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're ready for paint. We do have a little bit of change of plans. If you see that spot right there, a little bit on the door. Basically, what I did wrong is I applied too much pressure on corners or edges, and I actually sanded through the paint down to the primer. So the game plan has changed from just painting down there to we're doing the whole side here. We're gonna paint the entire side skirt, we're gonna paint the entire door, we're gonna paint the entire quarter panel. And just the only reason we're changing plans is because I sanded through the paint down to the primer in a couple spots. My fault. So the next thing that we need to do is blow all of the dust off the car, roll it into the paint booth, and then really make sure that everything that we don't want paint is wrapped up tight in either plastic or tape. Okay, I'm suited up. We blew off the car before we pushed it in. We also wiped it off with wax and grease remover before we pushed it in. So the last thing that we have to do before we paint, wipe it off with a tack cloth. However, we're pretty much ready to paint. So let's cross off paint prep. Next up, paint. After I pushed the car in, I went ahead and make sure every gap is taped, masked up. I covered up our wheels on both sides. Let's get ready to paint by tack clothing the entire car. Tack cloth is pretty clean, not much came off, but just a super important step so you don't have anything in your paint. Next up is sealer. We're doing 2 coats of sealer on the entire car. Remember, we switched to painting the entire side rather than just that bottom right corner because I messed up and put a little too much pressure on the edges when I was sanding. The sealer is going to make everything a uniform color as well as be a really good paint for our base color to stick to. After sealer, we can spray on our color or our base coat. Originally, I was only going to do 2 coats, but I was worried that the sealer color would poke through since the sealer was a pretty light color. I also had to get a couple hairs out of the second coat, so a 3rd coat just made sense. And lastly, we can get our 2 coats of clear coat on and call it a wrap. Okay, final coat of paint has been applied. Well, final coat of clear coat. It looks pretty good, you can't see it. And I'm not gonna show you until we pull it out. Okay, stepped outside to talk because we're done painting. I can't talk inside because the fans, and it's also dark outside, so there's no good solution. It's also cold. My painter friend Dylan said that I should just leave the tape on overnight. Don't risk peeling it off and ruining the paint. So we're gonna let this sit in the paint booth overnight. Go ahead and clean up the garage a little bit and get the cars inside.
so we won't get to see the paint until the morning. Okay, change of plans. I need to get the Supra and the Chevelle back inside for the night so they are safe and sound. So I went inside and felt the car. Well, I felt the tape, it's dry. So let's actually go in there, peel the tape off the wheels so that we can roll it out. Let's get it back over here so we're ready to work on it. And let's do a little bit of cleanup, shall we? Now we can finally admire our work. I am super happy with this paint job. This is only my second time painting a car. I think that's very important to mention that this is only my second paint job because it's not perfect, but I will point out a couple things. Problem number one, there is orange peel in the clear coat. It is possible to spray the clear coat without orange peel. I'm just not good enough. This is only my second paint job. The good thing is, this is fixable with buffing. Our repair area looks fantastic. It looks like there was never a hole here. And then the final issue that I'll show you with my paint job, again, second paint job ever. Believe it or not, we have some runs. Here's one here on the quarter. There's a run here on the door. But again, I am super happy because those are fixable with wet sanding and buffing. For my second paint job ever, I am super happy with this result. I think what we should do next is walk on over here and cross off paint job. That was the hardest 3 items on this list complete. We still have a lot of work to do. Now I want to get this video out to you guys ASAP. I'm already really far behind. For this entire whiteboard, I feel like these 3 things were like 80% of the work. The next 2 hardest things, or the most time consuming, are gonna be painting the calipers and painting the wing. So I say we do that next. But first, I wanna get this plastic wrap off the car. When you do this, you need to be slow and careful and peel at a 45-degree angle away. I wait for the paint to dry because if you do this when the paint is wet, it's possible that you smear or mess up and just ruin your paint job. But when you wait for the paint to dry, it's possible that you peel off the paint you just did. So be very, very slow and careful. I just did this section, I gotta do the whole car. It is slow and it is scary. I don't wanna ruin the paint job I just did. New paint is very soft. It takes like 30 to 90 days for this to fully harden. So be careful, take your time. That took a lot of time. There's got to be a better way to do that. I love when I do mechanic work, I usually don't ask comments of how I should have did something better. But man, paint and body work, I hope you guys are just all over the comments. How can I tape better? How can I body fill better? How can I have welded that better? I want all of the pros' opinions because I'm going to be doing this more. And I need to do it way better, way faster. Also, I said we were going to do calipers and wing. I forgot we got to put our mirror and our door handle back on. So let's get that done. First, we fish out the wires and remove the tape. Then we bolt on the base. Then the outer cover, plug in the side blinker and the motor, lock the mirror into place. And then plug in the mirror and click that into place. Massive struggle that was. Whew. Okay, body line lines up pretty good. Door opens and closes. Door locks. Door unlocks. Mirror's back on. Door handle's back on. That took way longer than it should have. And now after all that work, we can cross that off the list. Oh, that's right, I didn't write any of what we just did down. So I spent another hour of work, taking all the tape off, putting the mirror back on, putting the door handle back on. I really failed at this list is what I'm getting at. I put these 3 things here and it's accounting for everything. But now, like I said a little earlier, caliper paint, wing paint. That is the next goal. The wing is already off, so let's get the car back on the 2-post lift, lift it up and start taking off our calipers. We upgraded to the TTS calipers on this car. So 1, I know no bolts are going to be seized or stuck. 2, I know that the calipers or the rotors aren't going to be seized and stuck. Technically, this should be an easy job. Now I just have to hope that I don't eat my words.
Well, my brake line broke, so that puts a damper on the parade. Brake line broke off. Unfortunate.
And here is everything that we are going to paint. I would like to have kept the TTS logos. One of them looks like this, which is decent, but the other one is faded completely, or it came like that, I'm not sure. Either way, I'd like all of them to be consistent, so we're gonna paint them all. This is what I'm gonna be using to paint the brake calipers. I chose the color red, because red is what fast cars have. Now, according to the instructions, you don't even need to remove the brake calipers, and according to the instructions, you don't even need to scuff the paint before painting.
I'm gonna go one step further and scuff it. But overall, this should be a pretty easy process. So again, I'm gonna mask everything off that I don't want paint on. I'm gonna clean it with brake clean. I'm gonna make sure that it's extra clean with some Scotch-Brite. And then we just mix the reactor with the paint, let it sit for 5 minutes, mix it again, and we just brush on our paint. Wowza, painting those by hand took so much longer than I thought it was gonna take. However, they're not dry yet, but they look good.
I'm gonna be honest, I was really nervous during the first coat. During the first coat, it was going on pretty thin. I could see a lot of brush strokes. So far, they look pretty good. I am super excited to see these on the car.
They need to dry for 2 hours before they go back on the car, 24 before we drive, which is totally fine because we have a lot to do still.
Calipers are technically painted, but I'll cross these off when we put them back on the car.
While the brakes are drying, let's disassemble a ring or a spoiler so we can paint that and get that back on the car.
So now I'm just gonna do my best to get cleaned up down in here, and of course the other side as well.
Now we just mask what we don't want paint on, give it a quick little sand, and then we have a nice satin black paint. Now it says we need to wait an hour before we can put that back on. I say we move back to our brakes. They are dry and we can reinstall them.
And I think they look pretty dang good. I was worried at first that they were gonna have a bunch of brush strokes and it didn't seem like it was covering very well, but of course, after 3 coats, it turned out okay. There's definitely a texture to them. They're not buttery smooth, but that could be a mistake of my own and not the product. And of course, we have new brake pads and new brake rotors for our reassembly.
When we went for our first drive, as soon as I got to highway speeds, there was definitely a pretty bad wobble in the steering wheel.
Okay, rotors are warped.
So new brake pads and rotors was a must. The reassembly should be pretty easy. Anti-seize so the brake rotor doesn't get stuck, some brake lubricant so everything is moving nice and fluidly with no squeaks, bolt everything down nice and snugly, and we just do that to all 4 corners.
First corner done. I can't wait to see this behind the new wheels. I think this is gonna look so good. Let's get going.
Corner number 2 done. Let's go to the back.
One more corner.
Now this is the caliper that had the broken brake line, but as you can see, we got a new one, and we didn't even have to buy it. It came from the red rolled over TTS.
Extra parts car for the win. Can't think of a better way to do this.
Nice, sir.
And that is the 4th and last caliper reinstalled.
Now we are so close to crossing off the second most time consuming thing on the board, the calipers. But we got one more thing to do. We gotta bleed the brakes. All I gotta do is hook up my brake bleeder. I have it set to 50 PSI. It's currently pressurizing the entire brake system. I just open the bleed nipple on the farthest corner first, let all the air come out, and then I work my way from farthest to closest. And that is how easy it is to bleed brakes with a powered brake bleeder. Now we can finally come to the board and cross off calipers. Now, I think I said this before, but I really failed with this list because calipers meant new brake rotors, new brake pads, new brake fluid, and freshly painted calipers. So when I said calipers, I meant all of that. Whew. Besides these 3 things here, that was the most time-consuming part. The list is gonna get smaller and smaller, faster and faster. Now that we're done with the calipers, we can move back to our wing. The paint is dry, so we can bolt the wing back down to the hinges, clean up the rear hatch where we're gonna bolt down the wing and the 3rd brake light, and then we can install the wing and the 3rd brake light. Oh baby, we got a 3rd brake light.
Look how much better that wing looks now that it's painted. That is a crazy transformation. I did not think it would make that big of a difference.
That's awesome. I really like that in that satin black. 3rd brake light working. I will get rid of the 3rd brake light warning that I have on my dash. This is the exciting part. We get to walk over to the whiteboard. Wing, 3rd brake light. I knew it'd start going fast after the caliper and the wing.
Let's keep the speed going. I want to get the fog light and grill crossed off. This fog light's cracked, so we just pop out the grill, unbolt the fog light, put the new one in, and pop the grill back in. On the other side, the fog light's fine, but we're missing the grill. I already have it, we just gotta pop it in. Another 2 easy ones, really completing the front bumper. You know, like who would have thought that a missing grill and a broken fog light really kill the looks of the front bumper.
I like it, personally, a lot better now.
And we can cross them both off. I told you this would start going fast. There's one other thing not on this list that we need to do.
Let me go show you. I'm sure you might have seen it already. Let me show you.
All right, now that I'm looking around back here, well, there's a lot more to do than I thought. My list over there really lacking on the specific details. We obviously need to put the trunk back together and our hatch. Also, it's filthy back here. Previous owner lived on a dirt road or just never cleaned the car. Not sure. So put the hatch back together, put the trunk back together, and clean the hatch. But also, before we do all of that, it's gonna make a lot of sense to do this first.
If you don't remember, we need to spray cavity wax
Where we repaired the quarter panel so that way we make sure that nothing can corrode the back of this panel. So I'm hoping we can take off this panel here, and then there's a hole back there I can spray cavity wax through. You can see a couple holes in there. There's actually a bigger hole down lower behind that wire right there that you can't see, but I'm gonna spray cavity wax through those 3 holes, the bigger one on the bottom, and that should do it. Now that we're done with the cavity wax, we can put the entire trunk back together. Another huge benefit of buying the red rolled over TTS and having an entire parts car was that the red rolled over TTS had all of the stock tools that come with the car still, whereas this black one barely had any. So on top of having a new completed trunk, we also know that we have all of the tools that we need if we get stuck on the side of the road. While I'm putting this trunk together, I also wanted to thank you for watching, and I hope that you subscribe. On top of thanking those that are watching and subscribing, I want to give a very special thanks to the channel members. Right now there's only 3, but those 3 are going above and beyond to support this channel so that I can bring you guys more content, cooler content, and bring you guys content faster. Hardboiled 7774, Doc Huber 15, and I don't know how to pronounce this last one, Alex Andrankunta. I don't know if it's 1 word or 2, but Alex 7500, thank you as well. Oh baby, the trunk is back together, and the hatch is clean, and the hatch is back together, and we sprayed cavity wax in there.
Now, the running joke at this point is that everything I just did right there
Is not on the list, except for cavity wax. So put the trunk back together, clean the trunk, clean the hatch, put the hatch back together. That was all just cavity wax. We did it. Let's continue to talk about this list quick. There's 2 things on this list that we're gonna cross off without actually doing anything, and it's buff and tint.
The reason why I'm not going to do anything with the tint.
I like the look of the car with the tint. I don't really want to not have it on. The issue is the tint is really poorly installed. I mean, it doesn't even go to the edge of the window, and it's peeling.
I have never tinted a car. It's probably something I should learn to do. I don't think it's that hard, but I don't have the tint with me. I'm just probably going to pay someone to do the tint.
So we're gonna cross tint off the list, and I'm gonna have somebody else do that, and I don't want to peel it off and not have tint on currently. The other one, buffing. We're gonna cross off buff. I know we buffed the car at the beginning. I wanted to do more buffing, but since I have to wet sand and buff parts of the paint job we just did, we're gonna wait to do the buffing until we do the whole car at the same time.
This is where my lack of knowledge of painting comes in. This is my second paint job. Everywhere I see online has a different answer for this, so hopefully you guys can give me a better answer in the comments. Some people say that you can wet sand and buff just after 24 hours of a new paint job. Some people say wait a week. Some people say wait a month. Some people say wait 3 months. If it's a case of the longer you wait, the better, then I have no problem waiting and driving the car as is and wet sanding and buffing once the clear coat has completely outgassed.
So that's why we're gonna cross off buffing, and I hope to hear your guys' opinion on that. Which means all we have left is taillights, headlights, and our rims.
Which means we are so close. The taillights are going to be super easy. There's just a little bit of a film on them. I'm hoping that we can just mask off the taillights and quickly give them a polish.
Before and after on the taillights is pretty good. Unfortunately, on the driver's side or the left side of the car, these are just gouges or scratches. I can't get those out. But the right side or the passenger side of the car looks awesome. It is crystal clear.
I am super happy with that.
Let's cross off taillight. I cannot believe we have headlights and rims, all that's left on this list. And our car is starting to look complete again. I'm beyond excited.
Every time I finish one of these cars, I get to enjoy it for like 2 or 3 months, and then I have to sell it. I have to sell it to pay off the credit card so I can buy another car on the credit cards and buy car parts for the credit and buy car parts on the credit cards. It's a vicious cycle to keep this YouTube channel running. So if you are still here at this point in the video, I again just want to thank you.
Now let's restore these disgustingly yellow headlights. We're going to be using the Cerakote ceramic headlight restoration kit to do this. I've used this once before. It turned out awesome, so I'm using it again. It comes with gloves, step 1, step 2, and step 3, and of course instructions. Step 1 is to wipe the headlights off with this oxidation remover. It tells you to use every single one of these rags to make sure every bit of oxidization that you can remove is removed. Step 2 is wet sanding with both 2000 and 3000 grit. And then step 3 is the ceramic clear coat. Now they're not dry yet, but the before and after on the headlights is game changing for the look of the car. Headlights and rims are some of the biggest changes you can make to a car to make it look good. If you have foggy headlights, that is such an easy thing to fix. Crystal clear, not yellow, looks so much better. With our headlights restored, the last thing on the list is rims. Which means we are done with this list. We do not need it anymore. We can clear it off, get it ready for the next build.
Now, let's finally check out the new rims for the Audi TT.
Oh, man.
If you are still here at the end of this video, you deserve a reward, and your reward is knowing that the Chevelle is our next build. Father-son project of 6 years, and it still will be a father-son project, but me and my dad are going to finish this on the channel next. It already runs and drives, but all of the finishing touches that actually make it an enjoyable vehicle to drive are what we need to do on top of a paint job. So if you enjoyed the Audi TT build and you want to see a 69 Chevelle get finished next, subscribe, and I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I'll see you in the next one.